Are we live?
Are we?
Hopefully we're live. Let's do it.
Are we already live?
I think so. We'll soon find out. I haven't been live on Final Fantasy Peasants in an age.
Oh yeah, you are going live on the other channel.
Yeah, I think the last time might have been in Thailand. Porch casts with Ginge.
You went live? For
Yeah,
that?
yeah, we did a few. I think so.
Oh.
We'll soon find out.
Oh.
I can hear myself.
Pretend you guys don't hear that.
I'm a professional, guys. Calm down.
Oh.
Let us know if you guys can see us, if you can hear us.
Are we here?
Porchcast has been revolutionised into Pez Casts,
Yeah.
which is a very clever play on words Brie came up with.
My idea.
Pez Cast.
I think it sounds cute, and also it's like porch cast. What if you don't have a porch? What if we're somewhere where there is no porch? Your coffee's stealing pot.
I need to get myself amped because today's goal, at least for me, we're going to do this in a little bit of a format, as you can see, guys. This changes everything. I'm going to attempt to rip the internet's brain a new one.
And maybe piss you off.
I'm going to definitely piss you off. Whatever headcanons you have of FF7, proceed and they shall be ripped a new one. Stick with this Porchcast. We're going to go through all the moral implications.
We're not doing porch cast.
We're going to go into the darkest Pezcast.
Yes.
The darkest, most crevicey nuances of 7. And who really is the villain? I've been riffing, haven't I, for days on this. I've been posting out tweets.
Pissing people off.
Piss people off. And also myself being very cheesed off because I legitimately feel virtually no one understands the core moral framework that is very black and white. It's very grey. Nothing is, I mean, Square Enix have developed it this way. It's not Aerith good, Planet good,
Yeah.
Sephiroth bad.
Not at all.
We're going to be pulling Emmet-Selk in as evidence on why most people in the fan base have no moral consistency.
He's just drinking my coffee.
It's really good. She didn't make me one, guys.
I did, and you already drank it.
But yeah, we're gonna dive in, and if I don't at least pull you somewhat to the fence of Aerith could be the baddie, there's all weight and evidence and implication to say she's pretty morally responsible for a lot of bad stuff, and actually Sephiroth could be our hero, breaking us out of her evil flowery clutches.
Well, before we go too deep into that, why don't we make a little poll and see where everybody's kind of at?
I've already done it.
You already
did?
Yeah. Good job.
We'll go through the poll, but
Oh, I meant like on here to see, for people that didn't see the Twitter one.
yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
double poll.
I'll dive in with the Twitter one, but just so you know, the format here, guys, I'm going to be a little bit excessive, okay? This really is a thought experiment, and I'm going to challenge you guys, your moral framework, your fibre, your consistency, and how you apply it to the very dramatic circumstances of 7, and see if you're consistent. And so I'm going to be bad cop. You're going to try to be good cop.
I'm gonna be good cop, but real cop also, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just be disingenuous. If
And-
I
yeah.
kind of agree with Mr. Bad Cop over here, I'll be like, it's true, but so
I'm going to go evil. I'm going to go maniacal. I'm going to slam Aerith into the ground on the planet.
that's happened to her too many times.
But yeah, Bree's going to be in a position where, she's going to try to balance some of the otherly points that people could make.
Yeah.
Though, as we've discussed this for probably a ludicrous number of hours, probably like 2 hours a day for the last week,
Talked about it a lot.
we find we agree a lot. We're both hardcore 7 fans,
Yeah.
and our takeaway is pretty similar. But I will say, guys, after I've been down this head hole, even as of today, things have like illuminated in my mind. And same for you, where we're like, well, what does that mean? Well, how do...
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
That's a cool idea.
that's both cool
That's crazy.
and very dark.
It is very dark.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into it. Right, anyway, who we got up in the house? Hello, Wu Tai. Good to
Yes,
see you, mate.
hello.
V Taylor. Good to have you in house. Genetic. We are debating, mate. If I still kept my judge outfit, I would have
Oh,
put
you
the
got a
wig
super
on.
chat from Cloud Strife.
Yo,
Cloud? What are you
Cloudy
doing
boy.
here? What are you doing here?
Whose side are you on, Cloud Strife, Sephiroth or Aerith? I mean, let's go to the Twitter poll to kick off
I
proceedings.
do think we should make a little poll in here too to see what these fellas think.
Well, just type, guys. I'll read the answer of the poll. Basically, I said I've got an insanely deep and morally challenging podcast coming today with Brew Brew. It's going to rip your minds. But before I do this podcast, I want to ask you guys, from your understanding of Seven, who's the good and bad person? Who's the hero? Who's the villain? Obviously, we have two distinct ideologies, Aerith and the planets, Sephiroth and Genovas. And not to say that those are aligned, because Aerith definitely detracts from the planet, and Sephiroth absolutely from Genova. You could say the planet and Genova are on the fringe, and they're influencing, even indoctrinating, their agents who manifest very similar and kind of represent their ideologies, but with slight differences. And we've seen this difference, even back in OG, but it's really coming to a head, Aerith and Sephiroth. That was such a cool scene on the highway. And then it's like, you're a wanker.
No,
she's
you're
like,
a wanker.
No, you're a dumb cat.
You're a liar.
Those who are bound to her, the planet, see only shadows.
Is what Sephiroth said.
Yeah. And I was like, you're wrong. And this real battle, like butting of heads between these two characters. So I asked the poll, options were 4, Aerith isn't all good, Sephiroth isn't all bad, nothing is either good or bad, only thinking makes it so, let's go Shakespeare, my boy. Or the canonical headcanon, Aerith good, Sephiroth bad. What would you vote for? If you've been on my Twitter and you've said, type it in the chat, guys. I mean, what would you have picked out of that?
I did respond.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I picked Aerith isn't all good.
Oh. Incriminating.
Because I felt like it's the one with the least, and it's also something
I'm starting to get really convinced by, right?
Yeah, the more and more that we talked, especially earlier today,
I'm just like, Aerith,
I was just like,
you savage girl.
You've done a little bit of a naughty, Mrs. Aerith. But we'll get into that.
Aerith has done some fundamentally bad stuff.
Yeah.
Depending on your moral positions, because that's the thing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would. When we get into it, it's going to be hard to disagree with some of this stuff.
It really is, guys.
We're going to put you into a little box and force you to agree.
Don't say it. That's what we do, but we don't tell them we're doing that.
We're going to tell
them. Anyway, the poll came in 6%, out of about 150 votes, saying Aerith isn't all good. 15.8% saying Sephiroth isn't all bad. 25.6%, nothing is either good or bad. But the vast majority, over 50%, are sticking, and this is what I get the most heat on when I suggest Edge of Creation Sephiroth, a Sephiroth we've never seen. What's he really trying to do? It's not about redemption. It's never about redemption. It's not about suddenly switching up these characterizations and making Sephiroth the good guy and Aerith the villain. It's not about that. It's about looking what lies under the choices that these characters make and going beyond the labeling that Square Enix just hands to us. Here's the villain. Can you not tell? There's villain music.
He's bad.
He bad. And
he big bad.
She lovely. She lovely.
She's so sweet with flowers.
Yeah.
Must be all good. Flowers.
And sticking us into these, of course, I've been playing Seven since I was a kid. Sephiroth is the ultimate villain. I don't want that changed. This ain't about redemption. But what this is about is assessing realistically where Seven Remake is taking Sephiroth in terms of presenting us, the player, through the eyes of a villain and also the hero, a moral quandary. Something that isn't just straightforward. Taking their characters to the next elevation.
Plus ultra.
But I suggest any of this and people lose their minds. Because, 52.6 say Aerith good, Sephiroth bad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to break that down. I'm not having it. This is not the way of
Things are not black and white.
They really are. I would have voted Sephiroth not all bad. I think there is grey in both Aerith and Sephiroth. I agree with that. I really think there is. But should we just dive straight in?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. All right. Enough pre and by. I don't know. I just want to make sure I've seen everyone's comment. I love getting my mind ripped. Well, strap on them, laddie.
Strap.
I'm ready for the exam. Versus 13, anyone? Hell yeah. Honestly, I think Sephiroth is good in the remake project. I think good. See, I've come up with a better phrasing for it. Sephiroth is a dark humanitarian. And a dark humanitarian, because this is a complex thing, can good people do something with good intention, but if it causes something bad, if it hurts others or even gets them killed? No, you could even say this with Avalanche, with Barrett and the gang. Their intentions were good, fighting for the planet, tearing down an eco-terrorist organization. But did it make what they did? All those people dying in that bomb.
Yeah.
Did it make it okay? So can good people with good intentions do bad things? And similarly, can bad people do things with bad intentions? But if the bad leads to a good outcome, are they bad?
Yes.
So intention is everything.
Intention isn't everything, because that's the thing, is with the Avalanche situation, the people that died, the people who had family members who died, they're going to look at Avalanche and think they're terrible.
Yeah.
But Avalanche themselves, I think, aren't inherently terrible because they do have good intentions. I feel like good people can do bad things, bad people can do good things. It doesn't change kind of like the makeup of your character. If you like go out somewhere and your intention is to kill a dude, but you end up like saving 20 people on accident, you were still trying to kill a dude. It's just kind of like a fluke. You're still a bad guy.
Yeah.
You just did a really good thing.
And even if, from all these villains' perspective, they always think they're right. Of course they do. They're not, very seldom are they just out for themselves. I mean, Ultima's that way in 16, which is why I found him kind of hollow.
Yeah.
I love the complexities of Arden and Emmet and whatnot. Now, it doesn't mean that means justify an end.
No.
Certainly not. But we have to question, is Sephiroth the only one doing some dark means to justify an end? Or is planet, Aerith and the planet? So let's just get straight in with, and this is going to be tough, guys. I need some of you FF7 wizards to give your input. Let's lay out the reality of Sephiroth. What are the facts from what is up in the air, speculative, because there's a massive speculative element with Sephiroth. We don't really know him. Not only has Ever Crisis just come out and said, we still don't know Sephiroth, we've even had Nora tell us, Edge of Creation Sephiroth is a fourth kind of Sephiroth. We saw 4 in the remake, and he said, we have never met this kind of Sephiroth. We do not know him. He now calls himself Odi again, which is how he framed himself in Crisis Core, at least implying Sephiroth has taken back what he lost in the live stream. Which, what did he leave? So we got to go right back to the very beginning. Sephiroth, not the worst dude, not the best. You know, becoming famous because you've murdered so many people in Wutai.
He had a pretty difficult upbringing as well, something to think about. That's a very human thing, a human aspect of him. He didn't have his parents, but obviously, you know, he did his best to become known, to work hard.
And we saw that he had some, like, shred of humanity. Even in OG, when they first go to Nibbleheim, Sephiroth looks to the other and say, yo, go see your family. Go see him. And he even says, it must be nice. You know, there's a side of Sephiroth that is very human. His friendship with Genesis and Jill, with Zack. We've seen that side of him. We've seen the side that craves human connection.
And how important it actually is to him, the way that he talks about Genesis and Jill and how that impacts him. And, you know, even if you go back to OG, whenever Sephiroth's kind of like slowly starting to unravel, and who comes to his mind is Professor Gas, who was taken away from him, another very important connection.
And also one that he feels ideological betrayal from later. Gast, why didn't you tell me? Everyone betrayed Sephiroth. Like, it's so fucked up. Genesis and Crisis Core being there in the reactors. Like, Sephiroth having to make a mental breakdown, and Genesis like, yeah, eat these shit apples, mate.
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
Such a dick.
And Sephiroth went there literally to see if his friend was still out there. Like, Genesis
is a prick.
You're a massive prick. But I cannot accept people's interpretation of Sephiroth that no, he is just a megalomaniac with a god complex who cares only about himself, when everything before Sephiroth's fall points to the latter. So submitting that into evidence, Sephiroth's past behaviour, right?
This is what we know as a fact.
That's what we know as a fact, both in OG and in Crisis Core. Then what happens? He goes into the library, he doesn't eat, he probably shat in the corner of Garth's library.
Just shat in a book and squished it. Squished it like a pancake.
Don't need this page. It smelled like shit down there.
It smelled so bad.
And he's in the library and he's reading all these books. He's having his mind torn a new one. And what I'll just say is there is a thematic implication of the Nibbleheim mansion. Close proximity to Jenova. Like Vincent said, anyone who enters this mansion, this is where your nightmare begins. It's within close enough, in my opinion, influential proximity to where Jenova is, up in the mountains. So this is the real big question mark over Sephiroth. His murdering of everyone in Nibbleheim, is that genuinely Sephiroth? Has he read this content and gone, right, I'm going to go and switch from being someone who kind of at least admires and certainly respects other people's families to I'm going to murder them all.
Which you could make the argument that, yes, if you are somebody that is locked up in a basement for a fucking week, you find out that everybody's been lying to you. You've just been betrayed by your best homies.
You could get there naturally.
It's possible that you could just completely snap and kill a bunch of people.
Influential isn't a word. Like I said, Shakespeare's my boy and he made up words on the daily. Why can't I?
Let him make up his words.
Let me make up my words.
It's a possibility. I do, however, think that what's more likely is he has Jenova cells in him, obviously. And Jenova, what does she do? She takes advantage of people. She manipulates people, especially when they are weak. And Sephiroth, not having slept for a whole fucking week, is kind of questioning on the fence. And any of you guys ever stayed up for like 24 hours?
Your brain.
You're no longer in control of shit. Yeah.
I stayed up once for 4 days. Accidentally, I had to go to the doctor. It was a stressful week.
Oh.
Your world is just...
When did that happen?
It was ages back. I went on a camping trip, did a little bit too much ecstasy, and...
Oh, no. Jesus.
Cut that bit. YouTube's going to demonetize this.
Yeah, anyway. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, okay? Anyway. Okay. But, yeah, I mean, anybody who stayed up way too long, you know that you are, like, you start getting all twitchy, and, like, you're not in control of anything, and then... What would happen to Sephiroth, who's got that going for him, but also...
A galactic, soul-reading, mind-bending parasite that's travelled through the cosmos, destroying worlds, landed on Gaia, and not even Cetra, a super-advanced spiritual race, who had all the good qualities of Aerith and arguably even more, a perfect, harmonious society, ripped each other apart. They turned into monsters and murdered each other indiscriminately. And here we are. I'm arguing with people on Twitter because they're saying, no, Pez, don't imply that Jenova influenced him in the basement and caused him to do the Nibbleheim massacre. Because that takes agency away from Sephiroth. I'm sorry, if your headcanon is that Sephiroth is a big sexy villain and he's just all bad, and you have to make that logic to justify that, fine, that's your interpretation. I think it's totally missing the context of what Jenova is, how influenceable. Did I get the right word?
Influential.
Fuck.
You tried.
Words are hard.
Words are hard.
And if even the Cetra turned into monsters and destroyed each other, what chance did Sephiroth, somebody who has Jenova in his body?
And also kind of has a god complex.
Like, come on. He doesn't have a god complex.
To a degree.
I mean, he had a superiority complex
yeah.
from the war, but that's the thing. That's an easy thing to turn into a god complex.
Exactly. It's something that's like, if you already have that, which, I mean, can we even going down that lane, can you even blame him so much? He can't help that he's as powerful as he is, and everybody, every step of the way is saying, oh, Sephiroth, he's the greatest hero, he's so strong. I want to be like him.
Since birth.
Yeah, to be the best. You are the best. And I think that he did kind of go from being like super cocky to a little bit more like in his older years, like when we kind of see him with the whole Genesis and Angeal, he seems a little bit more chill even.
I was just going to say that because you see Angeal, who obviously does also have some Jenova being through the G-Cell project, you see Angeal a great guy, a guy with solid moral fibre, go down a pretty dark path. And while they're going down that path, and Genesis, and even Zack, the puppy's getting his head torn a new one, Sephiroth was he was in the middle. He was like, he knew Shinra were shitheads, but he also, he didn't go off the realm.
He had some loyalty still.
He I feel like he demonstrated good reasoning. Somewhat good reasoning. And what tells me that Sephiroth, pre-falling into the live stream, because this is the crux, that he was influenced by Jenova, is he doesn't go to us talking about mother, having, the insanity in his face where Cloud stabs him, and certainly not in the anime version where Sephiroth jumps in the live stream willingly, caressing Genova's head. He just dives in.
Yeah.
To me,
You think he just knew to just do that?
Yeah, he didn't. Jenova coerced him to do that. Now, why would Jenova in that version do it? Yeah, so that when he falls in the live stream, he has to cast off all the things that doesn't help Jenova manipulate him. So I personally think Jenova led Sephiroth do the massacre. So I'm not going to say he isn't at all responsible. I think Sephiroth had traits, dark traits, that could be flipped on him. But God damn it, man, we've all got bad traits. And if we keep our bad traits at like 20 or 30, and then something comes along and without our will pushes up to 100, it's like Cain Highwind. Cain Highwind, he had traits of jealousy and wanting to be better. But a dark evil wizard or some high fantasy fucker taking that to 100, that's not really you can't blame someone for that. You can't blame someone for having traits that get taken advantage of.
It's true.
And that just leads us, so that's the questionable section. What is now unquestionable is everything from this point on in the story with Sephiroth, he's no longer responsible for. He got thrown into live stream, and what does the live stream like to do? It likes to dissolve your ass. It likes to gobble. Existential annihilation.
Gobble.
For what? So that you become part of a collective pool of spirit energy that the planet can use to preserve itself.
Yes.
Fuck your identity. Screw your life, your memories, your life experiences. I'm going to dissolve you and use it for my own personal preservation. Sephiroth didn't like one. He didn't want that. He didn't like that. And while he was in the live stream, everything he did was to preserve. I think it describes it in a lot more in the black chapters of live stream, of the little Ultimania novella. He was in there and he realized the planet was trying to dissolve him. And to go against that fate, he had to cast off everything except for the core strongest traits. One, the will to endure, which I think that's, if anything, Sephiroth's biggest crime. He fears death, he doesn't want to die, he doesn't want to be obliterated. And to do that, he had to hold on to that trait, and everything like humanity and compassion, stripped off. They were cast away. They are still to this day, other than potentially Edge of Sephiroth.
Edge of creation.
Edge of Sephiroth.
Edge of Sephiroth creation.
Other than him, every other Sephiroth we've ever seen has only been a fraction of real Sephiroth.
Other than obviously Crisis Core.
Yeah, before that point we saw humanity. And
Exactly.
So those traits, and that's why we see Sephiroth go from that version to such a distinctly different person. This is God complex, almost seeming like he gets pleasure out of seeing people suffer, especially Cloud. Yeah, rain rolling off his back. That's how Sephiroth points him out as. He don't give a damn about the souls.
No.
Their torture, their torment. Now that is such a big significant character jump. And everything that we see of Sephiroth in OG is largely Jenova influence.
It's not even himself most of the time. Most of what we see, because actual Sephiroth, where is he? He's in the Northern Crater. He's literally just like in a little crystal. He can't be really doing anything.
Well, he can, because he can vicariously live through Jenova, which is
true. But Genova's obviously the one in the driver's seat.
Well, that's what's really cool about OG, and what I think people sort of overlook is when Sephiroth first shows up, he's like, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah.
I'm a squid man. I'm a sexy squid man from out of space. I don't know who you are.
And actual
I ain't got a
Sephiroth
clue.
knows.
And
Cloud,
then as the
knows
game
that.
goes on, it's Cloud. I see you, Cloud. I recognize the clones go from saying Jenova to Sephiroth. Sephiroth's will starts increasing, starts taking over.
But a lot of what we see is, you know, like that's why you do get that, where it's like Genova's like, what the fuck? Who are you? She's just clothed as Sephiroth.
And
it's
that's the
not
thing,
actually him.
Genova has no shred of humanity, doesn't care about either the planet or the souls on it. So indiscriminate against both. She wants to sail the cosmos. She don't care about connections. She'll yeet and obliterate everything just to survive. That's what's chilling about Genova. It really has no other agenda other than self-preservation. But neither does the planet. Neither does the planet. And what you see with Aerith is she cares about the planet surviving, but she also cares about people. And what I'm suggesting, guys, is Sephiroth is on that same shade, just on the opposite degree, is that the Sephiroth we saw with no humanity, because a lot of people say, okay, but we see him start taking over Genova, or his will starts getting stronger. Therefore, everything with Safer Sephiroth, his God complex, Advent Children Sephiroth, that is real Sephiroth. No, it's not.
Not fully, no.
Because he still hasn't got himself from the life stream. A huge chunk of himself. So a lot of that.
Yeah, which we have to recognize. What does that look like? How do we know that? Well, look at Kadaj, Yazoo, and Laz. Those are all parts of Sephiroth that he shirked off from himself. And obviously, we're seeing them in Advent Children. And then suddenly Sephiroth shows up. Obviously, afterwards, three of them died. They returned to the life stream, which is how it's possible that we're able to potentially see this kind of reunited Sephiroth at the end of Remake.
And what I want you guys to think about is realistically, if this is a new Sephiroth, I mean, that's what Nomura said, and he's been through the live stream, he's even been to the edge of time itself, and one that on the process of his remnants being destroyed and absorbing souls, what if he was recompleted? I think it's highly likely. That's why they used Ori.
Yeah.
So what does God complex Sephiroth, who was only really that God complex because of his Genova influence, he starts breaking away, and I really want to see this in the remake. We were talking about it. I really want to see Sephiroth break away fully and fight Genova.
Yeah.
But what would Genova and Sephiroth's ideological difference be? Genova doesn't care about the souls. What I'm implying is that Sephiroth remerged with his humanity. He may still be a narcissist, because that's what Yazoo is. I think Yazoo is the manifestation of his narcissism, his superiority complex, little preening boy he is. Loz is his mummy issues, but his real innocent one, his infantile one. The crying, the wanting to be with Big Brother and Mother, and
just always getting so upset.
Getting us upset. And then you have Kadaj, who kind of is his God complex almost. Kadaj like even hates Sephiroth.
Pride and envy, that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's like, oh, Sephiroth is better than me. Mother prefers him more. And you see Kadaj's rage at that. But even that God complex is still attached. It's a dark side. Loz, you could say, is the innocent side of his complex. Kadaj is the dark side. The one that Genova has played up. And what I thought really, or what was really cool in my mind is, and maybe you guys have seen this before, but is it not the case that Genova is technically Sephiroth's mother? Yeah. Because Sephiroth was made of three things upon birth, three amalgamations of DNA. And we were saying this is like a surrogate, almost. What if you have a woman with another woman's eggs put in, the dude's jisms? Like, is the woman who gives birth the mother?
It's like technically.
Maybe, but the child doesn't have that person's DNA.
Yeah.
But the thing with Sephiroth is his DNA is made up of Hojo, Lucretia, and Genova from birth. And I thought, yo, hold up. Hojo is a narcissist, right? Like when he becomes wise and he has like, I'm the best scientist in the world, I'm going to live forever. I'm like, is Yazoo a manifestation of Hojo, like in Sephiroth? Is that the Hojo in Sephiroth? Then is Kadaj the Genova in him? The dark, want to become a god, the dark manipulation of Mother. And then is Loz, does that come from Lucretia? Because Lucretia's kind of biggest thing was she also didn't want to be alone. That's why she sought comfort in Vincent. She also had that kind of fragility to her, that fear of being alone. I'm like, yo, damn. They've literally split Sephiroth into 3 distinct personalities, and those personalities roughly mirror the 3 beings that constitutes the Sephiroth. I mean, when those are your 3 parents, you are buggered.
He was kind of doomed. And that's the funny thing, though. Those were his 3 parents, but he didn't have any sort of parenting, really. He's a lab rat.
Whatsoever.
He's just a little lab rat.
Yeah. And
which was just not to get too far off into this point, but I do think that it's something that's important to mention when talking about Sephiroth and how so many people let him down. I think a lot of people overlook this a lot because Vincent's so cool, but there's a reason why Vincent kind of like
hid himself.
And he kind of has like a hatred towards himself and feels like he did something wrong. It's because he did. Because he was given this power. He's OP as fuck. And what did he do? He went to sleep rather than what he could have done, which was kidnap Sephiroth, raise him, and kind of prevent a lot of shit from happening.
So even the moral implication of Vincent, we're going to morally condemn everyone in this game. Because, yeah, Vincent...
Fuck your hero.
You know, it's not just about what you do, but moral judgment also is on what you don't do. If you have the power to do something and you don't, yeah, you're kind of morally...
Yeah.
corrupt.
Which, I mean, Vincent himself thinks that.
Yeah, that's why
he punishes himself. And he always talks about sins, like in Advent Children, are sins ever forgiven? You know, that sort of thing.
True that.
He knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
And that's where...
So Sephiroth's been failed on many levels. Which a lot of people don't like talking about.
And not
whenever
even
it
just
comes to
them,
bad guys or villains. We don't like to typically talk about what created this, what kind of led up to this. And it's like, you know, you might not like it, but sometimes there are reasons why people end up the way that they are.
And the other thing, you know, with the meteor coming down and being like, okay, well, that's all on Sephiroth and this is all on Sephiroth, is humanity were committing sins on a societal level way before Sephiroth.
Oh, for sure.
They were using electricity to enrich their lives, live lives of pleasure and luxury, and totally disconnecting because it was convenient to be like, oh, this is the lifeblood of the planet. I don't give a fuck. I get to watch Netflix. You know? and everything with Shinra. So, and Sephiroth is just a manifestation of these border evils. So I do get a little bit triggered. I do see Sephiroth as a villain, a grey one though, but I find myself getting polarized onto the defending him camp when people are so like entrenched in blaming everything on Sephiroth. It just isn't. It just isn't him. And you know, I do see it that everything past the point of him being yeeted in the live stream and having to fight against the planets, pretty horrific fate. This is where I'm going to pull in Emmet-Selk, guys. Well, actually, before I pull in Emmet, I just want to really frame what this is a philosophical battle of. Because I've seen people on both sides, I've seen people on Twitter contradict themselves. 1 minute, what they say Sephiroth did wrong. Then when I pull Emmet-Selk in, they suddenly flip positions. And they end up advocating for the very thing that they said a moment ago was evil. And the nature of that is essentially existential annihilation versus preservation of nature. So this is something you can apply to the real world, but you have to take extra precedence when you bring in the nature of having a soul, right? We don't know if we have souls. I'm kind of like shifting towards, I do believe it. I didn't back in the day. I'm shifting through my life experience. Like, yeah, I think souls, I have a preconceived notion of them. But regardless of what you guys think, if you think we do have a soul or we don't have one,
in the game they do.
In the game they do. And this is what I feel like when I'm talking about soul level discussions. I can tell there's some gamer atheists out there like, well, fuck that nonsense. Fuck that nonsense. It's killing. It's killing. And Bree fell into the trap of saying it and a few other people, but we discuss a lot about it. But when you make the phrase, murder is murder. Murder is murder, full stop. It's a blanket statement. Any form of murder is just wrong. End of. There is no means that justify murder. Even if that means is I murder someone and their soul gets to go to its fullest and richest extent, live other lives, reincarnate again, maybe live in a paradise. Nope, doesn't justify it. Okay, if that's your position, hold on to that. Because what I mean with existential annihilation versus preservation of nature is what we know in 7 is a soul, when it goes into the life stream, if it has no regrets, if it has no torment, if it didn't have its life robbed from it, it will stay individualized in the life stream. This was something that the life stream chapters really, really fleshed out. When Aerith first goes in there, she feels the life stream pulling apart sort of her consciousness, like she's losing herself. But then she starts thinking about the people that she doesn't want to let go of, doesn't want to lose. Cloud flashes through her mind. Tifa, Barrett, the rest of the gang flash through her mind. And this strong desire to see them again, as well as the planet having a purpose for her, enables Aerith to do what virtually no one else can do. Reform themselves in the life stream. Stay individualized. Only few beings have done this. Zack, the planet had a purpose for him, kept him individualized in the life stream. Jesse, Biggs, Wedge, and Dean, they stayed individualized in the life stream. Not because the planet had a purpose for them, but because they were trapped with torment over the things they had done. Now, when I've spoken about Emmet-Selk, guys, I know you haven't played 14, so this is going to be
I have not, so that's why I've been a little quiet, because I don't really know that much about him.
Well, before I get into him, just on that premise alone, what really is the priority? What do you guys think about this? That a human life is valuable and sacred because of the life it lived, because of the memories, because of the identity that it formed. This is me. This is who I am as an individual. Is the sanctity of life that? Now, annihilating that so that the planet can continue, is that justified? If you could have your individuality obliterated upon death. Because that's the thing, Christians, of course, they like the idea that when we die, we stay who we are. We go to heaven. Or hell, if we've been a naughty boy. And when we go to heaven, we will see people we love and we'll recognize them and we'll still be us.
Yeah.
Individualized, individuality is maintained upon death. Is that what you guys want? Or are you more in like the Taoist or the Buddhist or a panpsychic kind of mentality, which is, I've been given life, it's here, it's now, it's fleeting, and I'm happy to give back what I've been given. And if, whatever, because energy never is destroyed, that's the law of thermodynamics. Energy can never be destroyed, it can only be transferred. So part of the energy that you are will go back to the planet, and that might just be spread out. It might make rocks, it might make trees, it might make birds. What is a more, appealing idea for one?
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
Each person has different wants.
And then what is more morally acceptable? If obliterating all of mankind came at the expense of saving, if that meant saving the planet so that creatures like Red and just life as a whole can endure, is it justified? What do you think?
Personally, I don't think that the entirety of humanity needs to be obliterated. I feel like living beings, there are people who do care about the planet, and I feel that indiscriminately yeeting everyone is not the way, personally.
But what if the planet itself decides that?
Yeah, I think that...
Would the planet
I
be
think the
morally
planet
wrong?
is... So should we flip onto that now? Because I do personally.
Because this will lead into Emmet-Selk. Because I'll just say, guys, this is a really important question, and you can, if you fall into the trap of saying yeeting all of humanity to preserve the planet is bad, that's an evil thing, you will both fall into a twofold trap of saying that Emmet-Selk is right. That's the first trap you'll fall into. The second trap is you'll be admitting that the planet is evil. The planet is wrong.
Or at the very least, very, very fucking selfish.
Well, that's what all evil is. All evil is rooted in selfishness. Because what you have to remember is Eugen told us when white materia activates, the planet will decide whether or not to keep humans around. Now, I do believe that the flirtation ending with 7, empty Midgar, and Nomura believes this as well, different to Katase, who, or Najima, he thinks that they learned space travel, and they went on, that's why he loves the idea
his
of
own little head
Shinra and FF10, and they continue traveling.
Yeah.
That's why they're not there. Some people say, oh, they're just not in Midgar, they just moved to a different continent. No, no. The chapter of Nanaki actually strongly implies otherwise, that he ended up creating a complex within himself. I was telling you about it, and he called it Jillian. He created this complex of fear that only Vincent could help him with, because Vincent lives eternally as well. What a fucking fate. Red basically has an existential breakdown that he's going to live forever, and everyone he's ever known is going to die, and he's going to be alone. And he runs to Midgar every year to remember the people who are gone. I do believe that there is at least an implication that because I know Advent Children exists, the implication is, in one vein, that the planet consciously chose to commit mass genocide, wiped out all of human existence. That's why they're gone. The second implication is, no, they survived the Advent Children, but they didn't learn their lessons and they eventually killed themselves anyway. And I think that implication is doubly backed up by the fact that when Red saw the flash at the canyon in the remake, he said, this is the outcome if we fail here today. He said it in a negative tense. This is failure, which I think coincides massively with Nanaki's, his fear with Jillian, which is feeling the loss and the weight of these lives gone.
Yeah.
So there is every implication that the planet, and we don't even need to speculate, because that is speculative, right? But we don't even need to look to just white materia. The weapons prove it to us, right?
Yeah, that's something that I always have felt very, like, even as a kid playing 7, feeling so strange about that. Because whenever I first saw the weapons and they first show up, I'm like, oh, cool, they're gonna help me.
Yeah, because we're saving the planet.
I'm saving the planet. And then each weapon I would run into, I'm like, why is this attacking me? I was so confused. I'm like, I'm a good guy. Why are you attacking me? We're on the same side.
I got obliterated.
Yeah, I was so confused. Yeah. And then the more and more that, like, even as a kid, I was picking up on it whenever Bugenhagen says,
Bugenhagen.
Bugle.
Bogan.
Bugle.
Legless man.
Yes, the floaty ball guy.
Who we only just learned died.
Yeah, I wasn't like sure on that one as a kid because I didn't really see his pixels arm go.
Bugenhagen died.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I didn't catch the arm flop.
I didn't catch it.
But regardless, he said he said that, the planet could decide to yeet all of humanity. And that was always like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why? That doesn't seem like the right thing to do because it's not like everybody's bad. We're fighting for you, bitch.
And that's the thing. The weapons were indiscriminate. They were indiscriminate. And you could even say in Advent Children, a lot of people just go, oh, well, geostigma, that's from Genova. Actually, the more accurate description we get in Advent Children is geostigma is the planet's anger.
Because that's what Marlene says, correct?
Yeah, it's the planet's anger.
That's what Marlene tells us.
Now,
the planet was angry.
Yeah, you could say that these situations, just like why the weapons came out, is because of Genova. But the way that the planet responds to the threat is all about self-preservation.
Screw all of you.
I don't care if I need to commit genocide. I don't care if I need to send out mass weapons to go and indiscriminately destroy. And I don't care if I need to infect children and have children die. That's the planet for you. And this is the same planet that also has no fucks to give about individuality. It will dissolve you, everything you've ever known, and existential oblivion, so that it can use the energy that was once you to preserve itself. That's wildness.
Which you guys could make the argument of like, oh, well, if you were being attacked and you were being sucked dry, like, you would probably attack back as well. Yes, true. However, the planet is powerful enough to create these beings, to do these things, to manipulate these outcomes. It should be powerful also to be able to, distinguish between friend and foe, the humans that are there to help you versus the humans that are not. And this might be a bold statement, but who else just kind of like indiscriminately killed people based off of what they were?
For an idea of self-preservation. It's Sephiroth. Exactly. It's Sephiroth, but it's even more Jenova. Jenova will obliterate life for preservation. She's the extreme version of it. But yes, you're right, Novus. It is Sephi becoming one with the lifestream and the infection happening after F7. True, but the thing is the planet still has a role in its response. That's what the whispers are. They're sending out and they're violating people's free will and tormenting those souls so that it can save itself. So yes, you have the catalyst of Jenova and Sephiroth, but you still have what the planet's response is.
Yes.
And the thing is, the response is just as equally as bad, so it comes back to that moral question. Do the means justify the end? Do the means justify the end? Which,
now,
well, that's the thing, because what a lot of people will say in this is, well, the difference is free will, it's choice. This comes up in Evangelion, this comes up in a lot of animes, this comes up throughout Final Fantasy. It just did with Clive with 16, is, well, Sephiroth isn't giving people a choice. Now, when he hits planet with a meteor, or he murders them indiscriminately, he's not giving them a choice. Does the planet give anyone a choice? Did it give Sephiroth a choice? No, it just chooses if it wants someone around. But other than that,
obviously
you're going to get dissolved. And what I would argue is that those tormented souls, those very whispers we're talking about, those were also existing before whispers were a thing, before the remake. The reason why Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, Dean, they stayed individualized in the live stream is they had things that they wanted to do. It's like, I feel like the church Zack has just run into with like a little kid crying and shit. They're tormented souls. A kid who had its life taken away far too early. Is it fair for that kid, like these souls on some level, they don't want to disappear? Sephiroth isn't the only person who doesn't want to face existential annihilation. There's numerous people who want that. But the planet don't care.
No.
The planet will yeet them. And so this area of staying individualized in the live stream, so like your soul, your very soul continuing on, or being broken down as a piece of resource. I would argue that Sephiroth coming into this remake, when he looks up at the edge of creation, and he says, one day we'll be a part of it, but I won't end. And he turns to Cloud, and I won't have you end. We could say, based on what we know of God complex Sephiroth, that when he says, I won't have you end, Cloud, it's, you're my conduit to the world, and I'm such a selfish prick. I don't want you to end because I want to exist forever. It's purely selfish. Purely selfish. But like Nomura said, we don't know this Sephiroth. He's Ori. He's reconnected with the humanity. Is there a possibility that when he says to Cloud, and I won't have you end, he's not just talking about Cloud. He's talking about what Cloud represents. Like in Advent Children, when Cloud said to Sephiroth, well, what about all the people? Well, Cloud, that's up for you to decide. I would argue there is every chance, based on these facts, that Sephiroth is trying to undo the cosmic, both the cosmic injustice and the planetary one, that it will destroy everything that you are. And it will do it on the pretense of self-preservation. And he has seen this fate that it condemns all of humanity to, and he wants to do something different. We know in Advent Children, he said, I'm going to travel the cosmos and there find a bright, shining new world. Now, does Sephiroth want that just for himself? Does he want to just live, just me, God Sephiroth, all by myself, with no people, with no company, maybe the Sephiroth that has
That's what
always been
Jenova wants.
That's what Jenova wants. But what is Sephiroth who's reconnected with the one that craves human company?
connection.
Yeah, connection. Who had care for his friends. There is every chance the Sephiroth at the edge of creation is a dark humanitarian where I do believe he would create a new world. He could, and keep the souls individualized so that Gaia, her, the planet, those who are bound to her, don't have to go through existential annihilation. Sephiroth could be representing that portion of humanity. And I do believe if he created a new world, in my headcanon, he would release the souls. Now, do I think he would create a fair and just society? No. I think it would be a dictatorship.
Yes.
It would be one that he chose, the ideology of it. And even let's just talk about them.
Of course, Sephiroth, nobody's ever claiming that Sephiroth is untainted by these things. Like, of course, do I think that all the way up till Advent Children, he is still being manipulated by Jenova? Yes, absolutely, because Jenova is that powerful. For anybody that thinks otherwise, just look at what Jenova has done to Cloud. Cloud is our hero. He's strong. He has friends to pull him back, which is the only reason why Cloud hasn't turned up like Sephiroth.
And the only reason he didn't execute Aerith.
He beat the shit out of Aerith. Let's never forget that Cloud beat the shit out of Aerith and also gave Sephiroth the black materia. So you're saying that Cloud, who is much like, I would say, like he was more mentally strong than Sephiroth. He
has more reasons than Sephiroth not to go off the deep end.
Yes, because while Cloud was like all like, Mako poisoned out, I would definitely argue that Sephiroth was in a way more vulnerable position than Cloud was, which is, I think, the only reason Cloud had friends. Cloud wasn't as vulnerable. And also, Jenova stands to gain a shitload more from manipulating Sephiroth, which is why she does it so strongly. And as long as she's in there, until he's able to wrestle control back, there is still going to be influence. Now, I do think there's some of that will stick around. I do think some of that could have tainted who he is just as a person to become way more evil, which that is obviously on him because he's allowing, like, there's got to be a degree of him allowing some of this, right? Because Cloud did fight back. But you also have to remember, Sephiroth doesn't have anybody holding him to account. He doesn't have any more friends. He doesn't have any family. There's nobody there to stop him from doing these things that actually gives a shit about him. Well,
it's true. It's a very good point. And what I would take it even further is let's really discuss the moral implication, and hear me out, guys. Because if I say the word Nazis,
I was actually implying Nazis whenever I was talking about the planet.
If you say the word Nazis, it's like the conversation gets charged. But hear me out on this, because I think it fits with 7 because it does use Nazi themes. That's why you have, everything with the Nazi parallels of going to the North Pole, everything with the master race ideology, literally having people in the game named after Nazi generals, right? So the game does flirt with us with the parallels of Nazism. And I do believe that Sephiroth, if he created a new world with these souls, they stayed individualized. They're still them. They didn't die to existential annihilation, Gaia's fate. Took them out of that, created a new world. And in this new world, what would Sephiroth impose? Probably an ideology of like survival of the fittest, only the strongest. But he'd also do away with, and he'd be much stricter in imposing anything that wouldn't allow humans to be what they were. Corrupt, greedy, selfish. Everything that he stands against in his hatred with Shinra. Now, is it morally right if Sephiroth created a new world and he eliminated and imposed rules that did not allow for the very traits that humans drive ourselves towards annihilation with? If he imposed rules that prevented those, would that be a morally wrong action? The society would endure, it would be in harmony, it wouldn't become its dark, fucked up. It would basically prevent us moving into the same fate of subjugating and going to war with each other. If Sephiroth's paradise is a real paradise, does imposing rules on the society make it just to bring that about? Because that's what the Nazis thought, right?
Yeah. Obviously not.
Obviously not. Obviously not. Extremely, extremely dark. But you do... But I mean, that's just a speculation that Sephiroth would do that. I do believe he would. But if it meant that humanity had a shot of survival, and I do think that what really is the crux there, and why I think it's wrong. So this is why I think that's wrong, is because that's going on the implications that humans can't learn their lesson. That they can't naturally, through going to war and creating injustices and starving children and, you know, creating fucking tyrannical regimes and prioritizing money over life, that humans can't learn from that. Now, Aerith has faith in humanity, right? And that's why you don't need to impose this kind of rule, why it's morally wrong.
Yeah.
Now, why would Sephiroth, over his life experience, have any faith that humanity can learn its lesson? I mean, in fact, can humans learn their lesson? We have to even ask ourselves this question.
Yeah.
Are we're closing in on quite a lot of potential doomsday clocks. Can we actually learn our lessons? Do you believe we can, guys? Do you think that our society, we're learning, we're evolving, we're taking the right steps in the right direction, and we're eventually going to hit a utopia? Or are we going to wipe ourselves out?
We'll probably wipe ourselves
because we can't get over our tribalism and our baser instincts of pleasure and desire.
And just inherently a lot of selfish motives in general for humans, not thinking of the bigger picture, thinking about me right now, not the future and others and the planet. And that's the thing. Sephiroth, like you're saying, his life experience is just pretty much getting shit on, getting used, getting manipulated, everything, even Jenova, which, you know, Sephiroth, I'm positive, recognizes at this point, this, like, new Sephiroth that we're seeing, has to recognize that Jenova is only using him.
Yeah, he knows that.
He knows this.
For sure. And he's looking
like
for a way to separate himself.
That, on top of, you know, Genesis and Jill just kind of acting on their own, not talking to him, betraying him essentially. Gast, not talking to him, not explaining things to him, betraying him. His real mother, you know, kind of not being there. Even if he were to find out about the whole Vincent thing, I'd be pissed. Oh, you could have helped me. You could have stopped this. Hojo, a huge reason to be pissed off at humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, Hojo is one of the worst. But
I like it.
It's like Sephiroth has all of these reasons to be like, fuck you guys.
I just want to take some of these comments in the chat.
Okay.
On that point. No, absolutely never. No, making a utopia. Never. I do agree with what Wutai is saying. The implication that humans reset every generation. Now, that's what I really felt in Advent Children is, okay, so a meteor's come down and it's opened their eyes, but they haven't made that much change. And even if they do make change, how many generations until that disappears?
Yeah.
Now, you could say there is a theme in 7, and I was saying to Brie, you know, Aerith teaching the children how to nurture the flower beds. You could say the symbolism of, you know, when the rain comes down and it's all the children running out in the street.
Yeah.
The Advent children, that this is a generation that could genuinely change. And Aerith is looking to carve that path. That change can happen for humanity on an organic level. Which is why I think it's also very fitting that Kadaj took the children and said, look what the planet does. It racks our bodies with pain. It torments us.
Filling our hearts with doubt.
Filling our hearts with doubt. Come into this water, take back your power, fuck the planet and what it's doing to you, right? Let's undo this planetary injustice.
Which now, there is a huge point there of giving geostigma to children.
Yeah, because the planet's indiscriminate.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue that I have with the planet in the game is creating weapons to attack indiscriminately, creating geostigma to torture pretty much children
Precisely.
that have done nothing wrong.
And this is where I really want to get into your heads, guys. Do a bit of Pez Genova, Pez cells, get some of those P cells up in your body. Is for those of you who answered, no, humanity can never learn. And even if they do, from like one like annihilation threat, it will be gone generations later. What I would say to you is, in that case, is either Sephiroth in your mind or the planet right in their actions. AK, if the planet decided and came to the same conclusion that you have, that humans cannot learn and you will destroy all life. So I'm going to use white materia and wipe everyone out. So is the planet fair in that? But equally on the other side, if Sephiroth takes the individualized souls to a new planet and creates a new world, but imposes rules on it that prevents it from going back into that same tribalistic annihilation, is Sephiroth right for imposing those rules? Because if you say humans can't change, then surely your position that no, the planet's wrong and Sephiroth is wrong doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because what you're saying is, you know, humans can never change, so you know that they will both destroy the planet and destroy themselves.
But I don't think that's necessarily true, that humans will never change.
Yeah, but for those, but that's the question. This is what your personal POV of the world is. And if you have the POV that humans can't change, then you have seen the world through Sephiroth's eyes. You see it through his eyes. Yeah,
well, for sure. But I also think that it's kind of like, I'm on the fence with it, because yes, humans can change, but even if there's only, like, there's so many people on the planet, if there's even a small percentage of people that aren't willing to change, we gotta all be on board, you know? Or at least a vast majority of us on board. So it's like, that's the thing. That's the point, is we can't say like, oh, humans can't change, some humans can't change. And this is why this idea of either end of the extreme, I think, is wrong. Either end of the extreme is wrong, because there's always the middle ground.
But why is it wrong? See, this is the real crux of it, guys. Why is it wrong? Why is Sephiroth exterminating all of life wrong? Because you say, well, it's murder. Well, it's murder. Okay, but again, we've got to remember, this is a world where there's souls. And by killing someone, putting them in the live stream, they're individualized, then taking them to a new world where they can live a better existence. Does that change it being murder? Does it change it? Or does the moral implication of it change?
I think there's degrees. I think that murder, in this sense, it's still wrong, but obviously there's things that are worse, right? Like we were kind of talking about it earlier, of like, okay, well, if you kill somebody, but you're also killing their soul, is that worse than just killing somebody, but their soul goes on to a better place? It's still wrong to kill the person, but which is worse? Yeah.
Is it less morally wrong to murder someone to save their soul? That's what we're dealing with here. And, you know, this is why I need to submit Emmet-Selk into this. Because
into evidence.
Emmet-Selk, step on up. Bree hasn't played 14, but this was a god tier theory, and he actually stands as the ideological opposition, believe it or not, to Sephiroth. And people say both of these are evil. I don't think you really have thought it through as to why, because Sephiroth doesn't want annihilation for himself, and if he is a dark humanitarian, he wants to give humanity an option, a way for them to continue on as individuals and not just have their souls. And that's why I think he's separate to Genova, because she don't care about their souls. No. She's going to slurp that stuff up. But Sephiroth, not the case. Sephiroth could be looking to save humanity's soul and save the biggest thing that not only when we have this discussion, but Cloud values the most, which is your you, who you are, your memories, you as people, his care for Barrett, his care for Tifa, his care for his mother, for individuals. I do wonder, because this will tee on to Emmet-Selk, if Cloud had the decision to, because if it became one or the other, maybe I think there is a middle ground, but if Cloud had to choose to save the planet or to save all of humanity, which Cloud would pick? If it came to that.
Yeah, which my answer would be because knowing Cloud, knowing how hard he fought for, he's not the kind of guy that's going to fight super, super hard and just be like, yep, this outcome will be yeeting everybody I know and love, including myself. No. It's not, his actions have never been purely selfless. Obviously, a big reason why he wants to save the planet is because this is where we live. This is where we live. This matters. This can be a mutually beneficial thing where, we save the planet, we live happily ever after, it's all good. Cloud isn't the kind of guy that's just going to be like, yep, I'm just going to kill myself and all my friends and just
for the sake of the planet. Now, not to say that Cloud, obviously, at the end of 7, didn't suddenly get a big awakening to the importance of
the planet,
the world,
yes,
yeah,
of course.
the planet. But I do believe he would edge on the side of humanity.
Of course.
He would, because he has the bias, because he's human. And that's the thing. He has that bias. He has that bias. Now, what you could say is the existential annihilation versus preservation of nature. I would say that Sephiroth, the one that we are going to see in the remake, he's asking Cloud for his strength. Help me, Cloud, to save all of humanity so that we don't march towards the cosmic fate that is sealed of annihilation of ourselves. There's a way out of this, Cloud. There is an option here where we can remain who we are and we don't have to suffer Gaia and the cosmos' fate.
Which look at Sephiroth over the course of, especially Advent Children, hearing him talk about, I will never be a memory, how strong that will is, that he wants to remain himself.
It's Sephiroth's strongest aspect.
That's going to be way more important to him than following Genova or, considering Cloud as a, enemy even.
Yeah. But that's the thing. If that is, and I do believe that dark humanitarian is Sephiroth's goal, what would you say to that, guys? You'd say something along the lines of, well, no, because dying and going into lifestream and dissolving and losing who you are is part of the natural life cycle. It's part of the natural life cycle. Therefore, it's justified. Because like Aerith said, this isn't how things are supposed to be. They're supposed to be this way. She lives under the planet's indoctrination of how things should be. And Sephiroth calls her out hard on it. You don't know different because you've constantly had the planet whispering in your ear and predetermining your fate and grooming you. Aerith's groomed by the planet. That
she's a puppet.
You believe that it is okay to exterminate people's lives and who they are for the natural order. Okay. So if that's your position, and that's why Aerith's good and Sephiroth's bad, and over 50% of you said that's why Aerith is good and Sephiroth is bad. Okay, why do you flip then when it comes to Emmet-Selk? Because Emmet-Selk in Final Fantasy XIV, there was the shattering, which was done by Hydaelyn, the mother. Oh, the mother. Yo, a mother's a good thing. That's a great. Yeah, you're the worst person to ask for that.
Yeah. Anti-mom.
But Hydaelyn broke the natural order of the world, shattered it into numerous shards, and souls that were once complete have now been shattered into numerous fragments. And those fragments do live individualized lives. They have their own memories, they form their own relationships. And people kicked off on Twitter at me saying that not only is what I'm saying wrong, but it's actually disturbing. That's disturbing, Pez.
You got called disturbing.
It's disturbing. Because my implication of questioning whether or not I personally, if I found out that my soul was fractured and that every reason why I am suffering, why other people are suffering, why we as a society are killing each other and killing ourselves is because this isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't how it's supposed to be. The natural order has been broken. And if somebody come along and said, would you like to be reunited with the other 8 or 16 or whatever fragments of yourself? What would you guys pick? What would you pick?
I have a lot of factors between what I would pick. Like we've spoken about, I would want to know, okay, well, are these people pretty much exactly like me, are the other breeze living pretty much the same kind of life, and us coming together is literally just going to be like, we're like pretty much the same person. Because, you know, there's nature versus nurture. Obviously, if we have the same souls, we are going to have some things in common, but is it going to be a thing where we come back together and we're fucking fighting all the time mentally? Because this Bree had a great life, and this Bree had a shit life, and then we come together, and it's like they're battling, and you know.
So what if, and that's when I riffed the scenario to Bree of, okay, what if there's a ballot box, and the other 16 Brees, you being one of them, you'll stick your ballot in.
Yeah.
And if the majority of the Brees, if more than 8, if 9 or more, say yes, I want to be remerged, and go for this paradise. What would you vote? What would you put in the box? What would you guys put in the box? What a question, Pez. I really don't know. It's a deep question.
If most of them
you knew your soul was fractured and you were only living a fraction of the potential, and you could live a fuller, happier, longer life, free of strife, free of turmoil, free of living in a world of suffering, you could live a much higher existence. And you have that choice right now. What are you putting in the box?
I would want it to be a unanimous decision. I wouldn't want I feel like it would have to be like jury rules. Like whenever you're
all
condemning...
16, all 16.
I mean, when you're condemning somebody to death, it has to be everybody's on the same page.
Right.
So it's kind of like, this is a bit more serious than condemning somebody to death.
So even if they say, so even in that scenario, if they say, you don't know what the other 15 Brees are going to vote. You don't know what the other 15 Wu-Tais or Life Eater Holes, the other 15 James Litzes, Meg Armour, J Mon, Rain. You don't know what the other 15 of you are going to vote. But what are you voting? Are you saying reunite or stay shattered? I'm voting reunite because my personal perception of a soul, a soul, something that lives eternally, something that even after death and this highly identified life that we've lived, which is all we know, so we heavily identify with it, that this, if there are souls that live for all eternity, that this is but a blip of our full existence. And I would not allow myself personally to be blindsided by, well, I like this life, well, I don't like this life, at the expense of my full potential. I would vote reunite me.
But my question is,
reunite me.
Why do we have to why can't we reunite when we die? Why do we have to stop the life?
And this is the point. This is why Emmet-Selk is the curious counterpoint. Because the reason we can't reunite is because Heidelin, the supposed good guy, broke the natural order of things. The natural order was shattered, right? And this is why everything's going to hell. Emet-Selk comes along and says, I'm going to put things back to the way they are. And he doesn't just present it as bullshit, because some people call Emet-Selk a bullshitter. That it's just his perception of paradise. Now, Amarok could indeed be his perception. But you know what I lean into the camp of? Is that believing what Emet-Selk showed us was correct. That humanity was harmonious, everybody was heard, everyone was recognized. You know, there wasn't war, there wasn't strife, there wasn't bigotry. Now that's the thing, some rules were imposed to create that society, aka they all had to wear the same outfit. You couldn't wear different outfits, because if you wear different outfits...
What if the outfit's mid?
It was mid. It was just like
Looked like a fucking potato.
Sack. It literally was a potato sack. But would you prefer, if you had a choice, would you prefer to live in a world where you can express individuality, but by doing so by choosing how you look, having to spend hours on makeup?
I put a Sharpie on my potato sack.
Yeah, but then they would...
Smiley face.
They would, they'd come down on you for that. Because by doing that, you're creating individuality. And what that does is another person, that invites in jealousy, that invites in inferiority complex. All of a sudden it's what you're wearing. How good does it look? How expensive is it? Well, yours is shit. Well, yours is shit. And now you've started the catalyst over what causes division and strife. And the fucking fucked up beauty industry. and women going and mutilating their bodies for beauty standards. Would you want all of that gone if it meant sacrificing your ability to choose what you wear?
It's a very slippery slope thing to say. It's not necessarily that's how that's going to happen.
How is it not that's what happens? How is it not? We are living proof that that's what happens.
I don't think that you need to completely get rid of individuality in order to stop these things from happening.
Why not? What's the other? How do you?
I mean, that is an option. It seems like an extreme option. I think that kind of like getting to a point where people can have their individuality, but we're not if affected by that. Like, because I know some people that are already there. You see somebody and they look really, really fucking cool, and you don't let that impact yourself.
Perfect.
There's plenty of people that are already like that.
Perfect. And that's the answer I was looking for. Because
did I do good?
You did good.
Woo!
Because also Lord Dragon saying individuality, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll never be the same as the rest. So even though you can acknowledge on some degree that individuality comes with the cost of suffering, that individuality is such a vital part of free will. Yep. And that it's a violation, it's evil to suppress individuality. Okay, so why would Sephiroth be wrong if that's what he's defending? If that's what he's fighting for? Because it's the same situation, is it not?
Fighting for his individuality in the live stream.
Yeah, for his own, and now doing it for Clouds, and potentially doing it for the rest of humanity, not allowing Gaia to strip humans of their individuality to keep the natural order in place. But Emmet-Selk, on the other hand, was going to strip individuality, aka everyone on the shard, Ardbert, and some people said this to me. No, even though we know Ardbert and Woe are of the same soul, they're not the same person. It's the same soul, but they're not the same person. Now, I personally do think that if there are 15 other me's out there, 15 other Peasants, fucking hell, imagine all of us on one stream.
I'm good with one of you.
Imagine 15 of us battling for your ass.
Bukaki.
You know, I would see them as me because it's my soul, right? So I wouldn't see them as different, but I have had people say to me, Pez, what you are suggesting is psychopathic because Ardbert is not the same as Woe. And the reason why they're not is because they've lived different lives. And because Heidelin fractured, even though the fracture violated the natural order of things, it's now okay because these are different people. The Sundered people weren't people. What do you mean? What do you mean?
I don't know any of this
Give me more detail. Because some people are in the camp that your soul means it's not you. Even though you share the same soul, if you've lived different life, that inherently makes you different people because you've had individual experience.
You can be different people, but it's still you.
Right, so...
both things are true.
In that case, Emmet-Selk, is Emmet-Selk wrong? This is the crux of what you need to decide, guys. Is Emmet wrong or is Sephiroth wrong? Is Emmet wrong for obliterating individuality to keep the natural order, which is what the planet does? It obliterates individuality to keep the natural order, hence why all of humanity may have been destroyed by white materia, why the weapons murdered indiscriminately. Or is Sephiroth wrong because he violates the natural order to keep individuality? These are paradoxical counterpositions. They are inherently polarized. They are as opposite as it gets. Violate natural order to keep individuality. Respect natural order. Obliterate individuality. The thing is, guys, if you sit and you think long enough about it, you can't pick both. You can't pick both. Unless, and I want your guys' opinions.
Unless you find a middle ground with it.
Well, I want to go into that middle ground, but Emmet is wrong, Sephiroth is right. So by saying that, are you saying that human individuality is more important than the natural order and natural life cycle of the world. If violating the natural order means that us humans, so we are the apex, our existence is more important than everything else.
Whee!
Fuck animals, fuck trees, fuck birds, fuck the natural laws of the universe.
Doesn't
If
have to be
we
that.
survive, it's the priority.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like either end of the spectrum because I am with this, you'll find this with like most things with me, guys, is I am in the middle. I am in the middle. I think the middle is the place to be with most subjects. And I think that with this, it's not about like, oh, well, it's all about either humanity or nature.
But
We're capable of living together. Look at the Cetra. Look at how they did it.
Exactly.
It's possible. That both are important.
And you could say that's what Aerith's going for,
Mm-hmm.
that she's going for, trying to return humanity to Cetra roots. And
However,
and this is a very big however, is what people would present as what's right or wrong in that answer is the choice aspect. The choice aspect. Now this gets into a very dark, murky waters. Are you ready to come swimming, guys?
you got to make sure you have your floaties for this
Get
one.
your floaties.
You might drown.
So, is murder murder?
Murder.
Murder is murder.
Murder.
Murder of crows.
Murder.
Is it wrong no matter the situation? Just a quick yes or no, guys. I'm curious what you think. Murder, no matter what the circumstances, is wrong.
Yeah.
It's a very curious and charged question. And I think situation depending, it gets much heavier
Oh, yeah.
or lighter. Because, of course, the thing with murder is there's a big part of it that is you're robbing someone of something. You're violating their free will and their choice. And that is why, say, for example, Arbiter on Emet-Selk's example, is he didn't have a choice. Even though he did willingly re-merge with WoW, so there kind of was a choice there.
The dying part.
But the
was
circumstances wasn't.
Yeah.
Sephiroth hitting the planet with the meteor. Well, it's not your choice. Even if those people wanted a choice to continue on to another life, and they didn't want existential annihilation, which, yes, no. Murder, yes. Killing, no. Oh,
What do you mean by that, Rain?
curious.
Murder, how are you differentiating between murder and killing?
Yes, it is bad regardless. Murder is robbing freedom of choice, therefore, yes. Precisely. There we go. Somebody said it. I like it. I thought the same thing. I do believe that wholeheartedly myself. But let's just play a few scenarios.
Oh, I see what you mean, Rain. Like killing as in like, I think they mean like self-defense, that sort of thing, or
Yeah.
those sorts of, okay. I get what
So,
you're
so
saying.
let me just play a really dark scenario for you. Let's say euthanasia, guys. Let's say euthanasia. In that scenario, let's say somebody's got locked-in syndrome and they want to die. They want to die. They express it, I want to die.
Yeah.
And somebody helps them to do it. Did that person commit an immoral act? Did they commit murder? Now, currently the world we live in, most countries don't allow assisted suicide because they believe it constitutes as murder.
But there are a lot of countries that are coming around to assisted suicide for people who it's got very stringent rules, of course. Like I think there's places in the US that do it now, but you have to be terminal. You have to be terminal.
And what does terminal mean?
You're gonna
Essentially,
die anyway.
there's no other choice.
Yeah.
The options are you spend the rest of your life in suffering or you die from this thing. There's no other option. So when you give somebody that diagnosis, you say to that person, yeah, you're going to be stuck like that forever suffering. Their choice at that point, because of what you've informed them of, right, becomes, okay, well, out of these two options, continue suffering or existential annihilation, I'd rather choose existential annihilation.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd say it's not murder because it's the person's choice. Okay. But now if you play this scenario again, guys, where you as a doctor, you have a miracle cure that can cure the person, that gives them an option. It's not just existential annihilation, pain forever. But there is a third
It's
option.
another treatment.
There is a treatment. You can get out of this. You can go back to being yourself. You can go back to living a good life. Okay? But you don't tell the person about that option. Or the person making the choice on whether or not they want assisted suicide doesn't get informed of that. They're not informed. Is it still their free will? They say, oh, you haven't told them that there's a cure. They say, okay, please kill me. They do it. Was it the person's free will?
Obviously, it can't be your free will. You don't have a choice if you haven't been given all the choices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're coerced. So how can individuals make choices of free will if they're not informed? You can't. Arguably, you cannot. And is that not the exact situation that all of humanity is in FF7? And is it not the same one that they were in Final Fantasy XIV? Souls did not know that they were shattered. Souls do not know that Sephiroth, what Sephiroth knows is that, yeah, there is a way that we can get off Gaia's curse. We can live this other option. So when Aerith goes up to souls in the live stream, like Jessie, Biggs, Wedge, she goes up to them and they're suffering, just like the Whispers, screaming in pain. And she goes up to them and she speaks with them, and by speaking to them, they dissolve. That's what happens. How is that not the same as Aerith helping them commit assisted suicide? Because they're in pain, and to the souls and what Aerith presents, because she doesn't believe in Sephiroth or even think about his other option, to Aerith, she is indoctrinated that, and she said this to Cloud in the date scene, we all die. At some point we all die, and that's why we need to make the most of life, because we all die. How is she not helping souls commit assisted suicide?
See, I would say that she is kind of doing that, but instead of, so there's two kinds of like helping somebody kill themselves,
They're
right?
not the same. Wait, what, specifically what? To what
What's
I said,
not the same?
Flygon? Because they are the same. And when people say these things are not the same, they are the same. I don't know if you're saying it to that, Flygon, but
There is a delay in the chat.
there is a delay in the chat.
But yeah, clarify what you mean. But I will say that with the Aerith thing, and her dissolving souls that are suffering and stuff like that, I would say it would be like assisting a person who is suicidal because of mental health issues. So I think that there's a huge difference, obviously.
Yes.
If you help somebody kill themselves because they are suffering mentally, what's everybody going to look at? You're going to get arrested.
Yeah.
You are going to be charged. People are going to look at you like you're a terrible person because you helped somebody in the way that they thought they needed to be helped. Like, ask anybody who's gone from being suicidal to, like, they've gotten help, they've gone to therapy, they've gone on medication, and now they're no longer suicidal. They're like, oh God, I'm so glad that I didn't do that.
There was another option.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm really glad that I stayed alive. I'm glad that I got better, this and that and the other thing. There is a path to, what's it called?
Recovery?
Recovery, yes. And there are some things where there is no path to recovery. Terminal cancer, where you have done everything. There is no possible way to come back from that. All you're doing is waiting maybe a month to just suffer and die.
Yeah.
That is something where it is mercy. It's mercy. It's merciful.
Yeah.
There is no other option.
So,
what Aerith is doing, it's not the only options, right? Because obviously she's, and this is something that I think is very important to think about, is all of these souls that are getting dissolved, and not being given this, like Aerith is given very preferential treatment in the live stream. She's got a very privileged position.
She does.
So her natural disposition is of course going to be like, yeah, I'm on the side of the planet. It's been whispering at me since I was a kid. Obviously the planet's good, the planet's right, and obviously the planet is really good to her.
Yeah, that's what makes Aerith morally fucked up and actually
And a puppet.
A puppet. Yes, Aerith is a puppet. Because just to rephrase specifically what Bree said, is you say it's about free will, guys. It's about choice because they chose it. But if a suicidal person comes and asks you to help them kill themselves and you do it, that's not mercy. What you've done is evil. Then you've committed murder. But the person still chose it. The only difference between those two scenarios of what makes one a mercy and what is going to land you with a murder charge in jail for the rest of your life is that in one scenario there was an other option and the other one there isn't. Now Sephiroth has been through the planet and he has learned by learning about destiny, about learning the fate that Gaia and the cosmos imposes to everything, to all of life and all of creation. He has learned that there is another way. So in that way, how is Sephiroth not taking the mercy route? How is he not? It's going to mess your heads up if you really think about it.
So are all the Cetra puppets then? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because you have to think about it. If something is whispering in your ear ever since you were young, and it's telling you all of these things,
It's crazy, guys.
and it's using you, then yeah, you are a puppet. You are still a puppet.
Yo, guys, quickly pausing there. Is the stream screwed, guys?
Is it good?
Has the stream just gone scrippity scrap? Look, I can tell I'm going off the deep end because my hair is slowly getting crazy.
Yeah, whenever you kind of riff too hard, you start like going like this with your hair a lot.
My stream seems fine.
Okay, James, I would just reload.
Yeah. Hit the refresh button, but hopefully it's okay for the rest of you. The question is, who is the moral arbiter in F7? I don't think it's the player, it's the Earth. Then Aerith is morally right. Well, that's the thing. Who is the moral arbiter? Minerva at one point was that moral arbiter, and that's what she condemned Genesis. Fuck your choice. I'm gonna stick you down the live stream. The arbiter is the planet. The planet chooses who it wants to keep. So, to put this in another way, let's play that euthanasia example again. Let's say the planet is the doctor here, and the soul is suffering. And the doctor says, well, you could just let go of your will to live and we'll put you to existential night-night. Goodbye. But the planet, being this doctor, has a way to allow the person to continue. But the doctor will only tell you about that option if it deems you useful. That's the only reason it kept Aerith around. It's the only reason it kept Zack around.
Kind of
It's the only reason why
doctor.
Minerva threw Genesis into the live stream, because it had a use for him. Okay, so the planet picks and chooses based on who's useful. That makes it even more morally fucked. That makes it even... Now I'm starting to see what Sephiroth is talking about. Sephiroth has a good point. Yeah. And, you know, the question of like murder, when it's right, when it's wrong, killing is always bad. Okay, guys, so what do you think about a soldier in active duty? What do you think about a soldier being sent to the battlefield on behalf of a corrupt government that's doing it for other nefarious means? And the soldier goes onto the battlefield, doesn't question the higher-ups, doesn't question the commanders, doesn't ask the question, why we're here. I'm a soldier. I just do what I'm told. And they go and murder people. Is murder okay then? What say you guys?
I think that's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one because if you're talking about murder being bad, why is Zack considered a good guy?
Why is Zack considered a good guy? The guy signed up to kill people. He was trained as a killer, and he went to Wutai, an innocent nation, for all intents and purposes, and he went and murdered people.
And that's the thing.
Okay, you can say, well, they're active. No, the Wutai soldiers fighting back. You know, he didn't kill Yuffie. He didn't kill an innocent, like, intentionally. He is still helping what will get innocents killed. You know, so they kind of morally screen it off with Zack in that sense. But why? Because, yeah, the other thing with Sephiroth, you can't consider him a bad guy for killing people as... you know, the demon of Wutai, if you consider Zack a good guy.
It's true. And that's the thing also, you have to, you know, there's different things that go into this when you're a soldier and you're fighting for your country, and, you know, Zack and Sephiroth fighting for Shinra. You know, there's lies that are told to make you feel like you're doing something right, or like you're in the right in this particular situation. You have to defend your country, this, that, and the other thing. But I think there's a reason why soldiers always end up with PTSD.
And
Because
like
killing isn't a good natural thing that a good-hearted person does. It's a difficult thing for them to do.
And like Flygon says here, I was in the army and I questioned orders and would disobey unlawful orders. This is something I heard about the Iraq War, that there were soldiers who, after being out there, they had a morale crisis because a lot of the soldiers said, what are we doing here? What are we doing this for? Why are we here? What was this war started over? Once the crack started showing, those soldiers, they went into PTSD. They couldn't reconcile their own moral actions. Because that is the thing. You can't say a soldier is just completely like stripped away from any action he takes just because a high up told him.
Which that's the thing.
It don't work that way, man.
If you look at like obviously Zack went away from Shinra whenever he, but it took, because that's the thing is Zack is such a kind of, I wouldn't say stupid, but he's a bit scatterbrained, isn't he? Where it took him to the point where he was literally completely like attacked by them.
Yeah.
And he really saw them for what they were for him to kind of, abandon Shinra.
Yeah.
Because honestly, he got to the point where he had no choice. They would just kill him. So it's like...
Precisely.
It took him that much.
He had no choice. And that's why Flygon, I also disagree with the other comment. Lack of information doesn't take away free will. It just affects the execution of it. No, it does take away the choice of free will. Again, if you've got somebody locked into their body and there is a cure, stay suffering or be put into night time, and you don't tell them about the cure, and you only leave them with these two options,
then
that's not
on
free
you.
will. It's
That's
the
on
same
you.
as a soldier going into war. If you spin them wrongful information, if you say they've got nuclear weapons, or they attacked your homeland, or they did this, all the same spins that Shinra did to Sephiroth, to Genesis, to Angeal, to Zack, spun a bunch of lies and a bunch of nonsense, then that soldier, from their POV, from what they've been told, this is defending my country.
Yeah.
This is defending people I love. And they go out and they kill based on that information. You're saying that that soldier had complete free will in judging their actions.
You can't just like purely say, okay, well, if you're a soldier and you were manipulated and you were lied to, you are still just a bad person, even though you were lied to, even though you were manipulated. And you also have to remember, like, look at Cloud and how he talks about Sephiroth. Like, I want to be like the great hero Sephiroth. They put these like little seeds into children's minds and make them think like, oh, I want to be a big strong hero like him.
Yeah.
I want to fight for my country, those sorts of things. So it's like it's all these young dudes going into this.
And that's what's dark about Stamp. Stamp is the figurehead for military recruitment, joining the military, fighting, fight Stamp, fight. And it's in children's. You go to a sector, was it 7? And they're giving it to kids. It's in their books. They've done it with a playful kid song.
Yeah.
Getting it in kids' minds early.
If you tell people enough that, okay, this is the right
Stamp
thing
is
to do.
dark shit.
This is the
guys.
right thing to do. This is what you
Insidious.
should be doing. They're bad. You have to go fight and kill them because they're bad. Even if it's not true, they don't think that. They think, oh, I'm doing the right thing here. They really think that. And it's been beat into their heads from childhood.
Yeah.
So, of course, somebody like Zack, who's naive, very puppy energy, he's going to think, what I'm doing is right.
And that same indoctrination, guys, play in your mind the possibility that Sephiroth, at the edge of creation, a new one, is a dark humanitarian who is looking to save individuality. The very thing that most of you just answered is what makes Emmet-Selk wrong. It's a juxtaposition. But in the scenario with Sephiroth, you play it as free will, but people aren't informed in the shattering that they have other souls, so they can't make the choice. People aren't informed in FF7, in the world of FF7. They're indoctrinated with going to war. They're indoctrinated that this isn't the life of the planet that we're draining here. This is just like free, clean energy. Free, clean energy.
Yeah.
These people don't have a choice. And arguably, if the planet is doing the same indoctrination to Aerith and the Cetra, does Aerith also have a choice? If she doesn't know that, the planet's the planet doesn't actually, this choice of dissolving individuality isn't the only way. Sephiroth's right, there is another option. And Aerith goes up to souls in the live stream and gives them a two-way street, keep suffering or dissolve. And arguably she indiscriminately picks dissolve because she sees it as a mercy. She goes and she touches souls in the live stream to help them dissolve. And she sees what she's done as a kindness.
But intention is still not everything. Intention is important, but it's not everything.
Yeah. And in that sense, Aerith could be, complicit. Complicit in an evil doing on behalf of the planet, and she is propagating it, and she is actually ironically propagating it through something that she personally benefits from. Because what choices do these souls have to stay individualized? She gets to.
Yeah.
She gets to. That's why she shows up at Advent Children. That's why she's with Zack at the White Doorway. When she was dissolving herself, she didn't want to disappear into the live stream because she wanted to reunite with Cloud, with others, with Zack. She had that urge to be with the ones she loved. So the planet giving Aerith, just because it has a use case for her, and Aerith, one of the few individuals who gets to continue on as her, it's a bit of a fucking privilege, isn't it, really?
She is pretty privileged.
It's a bit of a hypocritical position that you're going to go around dissolving everyone else who doesn't have a choice while you get to live happily in basically live stream afterlife. That's
but nobody else does.
But nobody else does. And Sephiroth is simply coming in and saying, no,
that's
fuck
not
that.
right.
That's not right. That's not right that nobody gets a choice.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dissolved. I don't want to end. Cloud, I won't have you end either. There's everything to say that the Sephiroth at the edge of creation doesn't hate Cloud and actually has a respect for him. Because notice the Sephiroth in the remake, when he first shows up, you're weak, Cloud. You're weak. You can't save anyone. Enjoys tormenting him. Enjoys his suffering. Versus the one at the edge of creation, holds his hand out. Cloud, lend me your strength. I won't have you end. When Cloud almost touches his head, which is going to mess it, the thing that the planet's been messing with, and he goes, careful, careful now. That which lies ahead does not yet exist. Even just by nature of Cloud, lend me your strength is different to Cloud, you're weak, you're too weak. Edge of creation Sephiroth, the one that is merged, that has all scope of everything, there's everything to say he could actually have respect for Cloud. We don't know what his relationship to Cloud at that point is going to be.
Yeah.
If anything, I would argue that a Sephiroth that has the capacity to feel empathy, to feel humanity, to feel the traits that he once, before Genova fucked him over and the live stream fucked him over. That's the thing.
It's true.
Genova isn't the one who fucked him up, even
predominantly. Not to the degree that he got fucked up.
Gaia was the one that was like, yeah, you're in my live stream, I'm going to dissolve you. Oh, I don't want that. I have to cast off these parts of me to fight what this planet is doing to me. So the planet, as equally as Genova, is what created God complex Sephiroth. And you could say that one that has regained himself, he could feel empathy for Cloud. He could feel admiration for Cloud. He could feel a sense of humanity for him.
Yeah, of course. If the parts that he shirked off reunite with him, yes, that's not to say that Sephiroth's going to just go back to before he was influenced by all of these things that happened to him by Genova, but it can bring him back a little bit to where he can feel some kind of empathy, some kind of willingness to work together, something.
And it makes sense because for anyone, and I know some people on Twitter, and when people say this, they take this as I'm talking about a redemption, Sephiroth. But guys, if after what we've assessed and all of that, if there is someone in this comment that can tell me, based on all of that information, specifically what is it that Sephiroth did wrong? What is it that he did wrong? What makes him the villain? What I've thought about this for hours, guys. I've sat, I've muddled through it, I've balanced these different factors. At this point, I don't know what makes Sephiroth a villain. I can definitely see what makes Aerith doing evil shit through naivety. The same thing that Zack did. He did pretty evil shit through naivety.
Which is bad, okay.
But Sephiroth, at this point, he's not naive. He's fully aware. He's fully cognizant. He has all of the aspects of himself. And what he is simply saying is that it's not right for the planet. He wanted to destroy all life. Who says he did? What does destroy all life mean when there's souls? What does that mean? Because all life is going to die anyway. Again, I would even pose this question to you guys. What is a better kind of murder? Is there a difference between if you murder someone to save their soul and they go to heaven, or if you murder someone and you condemn them to hell for all eternity? Again, that euthanasia example. If somebody really wants to have assisted suicide and a priest comes in and says, God won't see this as a sin. He'll forgive you. We're going to do a prayer. And by doing that, your soul will stay for all eternity in heaven. Versus if the same priest or something goes up to a suicidal person who wants to die and helps them do it, and that's a sin, and you go to hell for all of eternity. And even who's to say he wanted to destroy all life? Who says that? It was Genova. Genova wanted to destroy all life.
Yeah.
Because what is destroy all life? If you're talking about just the ephemeral, fleeting like lives that you exist, that you have, you know, the life that you have. Well, you could say him destroying that, right, is what is destroying all life. But if you're loading people up into a soul ship and they retain all their memories, all their life experience, their individuality, and they get to go on and live a higher, more fruitful life, versus march slowly towards existential annihilation, what is killing all life? Because the planet is killing all life. Aerith is helping to lead souls to existential annihilation. She helps that process. Aerith helps destroy all individuality in souls.
Which is fucked. And I think that makes her a bit, you know, she's very... She's complicit.
She's literally making it so that souls cannot continue as individual expressions, that they have to be broken down into life force energy. So when you put that into account, what is killing all life? Is the planet not killing all life?
It's also hard to know for sure what exactly Sephiroth himself wants whenever we're talking about Sephiroth that is also being controlled in some way, shape, or form by Genova.
Say again?
It's hard to say exactly what Sephiroth wants. In
It
OG,
is speculation, yeah.
just purely because of the things that he says whenever he's being controlled by Genova and he still has her influencing him, it's hard to know what are his wants and what are her wants. So that is also something that is important to note. Same thing with Aerith. The things that she wants aren't, like, she might think that these are the things that she wants to do and things that she thinks are right, but why does she think that? Because she's had the planet whispering in her ear her entire life,
and she's
been benefiting from it. So really, her thoughts aren't even really truly her own, they're the planet's.
Yeah, and she even says that herself. Why do you think Aerith is scared of the great blue sky? Why do you think, I mean, it's literally spoken a lot more heavily in Ultimania, but even in OG and even in the remake, is that she gets a tremendous amount of fear because the planet basically forces her to do stuff. And it gives her a tremendous amount of anxiety. And arguably, the planet is what puts the moral implication of sending Aerith marching to her own death.
It's true.
Nice.
Because obviously the planet knows...
Sephiroth's the villain here,
The planet knows that it can use Aerith, which is why it keeps Aerith, like, allows her to keep her form, because having Aerith in the live stream is more beneficial for the planet than having Aerith actually alive. So it's actually kind of fucked.
Well, I'm gonna take some comments, guys. We've been waffling a while now,
Yeah, we
and
have.
somebody said, "Do you think we'll get alternative endings?" We will just round this
Yes.
little Pez cast out with
Possible.
what we think. All of this ideological battle, this back and forth. What we think the ending, part 3, could be, should be, might be. We'll cover that. Before we do that, guys, give me your comments. Let's read some. See if any jump out to you, Bree.
Yeah. Also, make a poll and see. Do you guys have you guys been swayed a little bit on the idea?
I mean,
of,
yeah. So, what would you vote now, guys? With all
Aerith,
of that in mind, Aerith isn't all good. Sephiroth isn't all bad. Neither is good or bad. Aerith good and Seph bad. See, I personally would now side on nothing is either good or bad, simply because
they're
you
both
could say
good and bad.
they both have different understandings. But the problem is, Aerith at this point, she isn't fully cognizant. So she is acting on half-baked information. So you can't say she's all bad.
No.
Because she doesn't know.
But she's also not all good.
But what I would say is Sephiroth has seen the full picture of everything, and he's decided that retaining individuality in souls is a valuable and precious thing, and that if saving breaking the wheel that has perpetually kept souls on basically a churning fucking spiral of existential annihilation, I'm going to break that wheel, and I'm going to give humanity an ability to retain themselves and transcend and overcome cosmic annihilation. I'd say he's looked at that, he's made that decision. And do I think that that is a right or wrong decision? Again, going back to my original premise, I don't necessarily, I don't know, this is tough because it's like, I don't necessarily care about the essence of who I am being reconstituted to save the world or like continue and become part of the natural order of things. But at the end of the day, if I was in the shattering of 14 and I found out I had a soul and it was being unjustly ripped into fragments, I'd feel a kind of way about that. I'd feel a kind of way about not being given a choice on whether or not, if I didn't live this full life and I could have a choice to live it again, make up for my mistakes, if I had my life robbed from me, to be able to get another chance of it. If I found out there was an option that you could live in a world where if you want to come back, you can, versus you have no choice. You're getting yeeted regardless. This is what Evangelion presented, the anime, I don't know if you've seen it, but basically people got to choose. Do you want to just amalgamate with everyone else and basically let go of your individuality? Or do you want to live? Do you want to live as an individual expression and see that life to the fullest? At the moment, the world hasn't had a choice. And that's what the fundamental battle is, I believe, guys, in Final Fantasy VII. And the thing is, you can fall either one of those spectrums. Like, hold up, I've lost my chat. Where's my chat, Brie?
I don't know.
I want to read people's comments.
Yeah. I want to make another poll just to see what the difference is in the percentages of what people are.
All right, let me poll it, guys.
Poll it. Where's the tab?
I don't know.
Yeah, is that it? This is it. Yep.
Okay.
You can make a poll there.
There we go. Let's poll this.
Poll. Basically same questions, right?
Yeah.
Bree
Aerith
is the poll queen, yeah.
versus Sephiroth. So yeah, you've only got 2 choices though.
Oh, isn't there a thing where you can?
Yeah. Oh, you can add 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Aerith. Okay. Go through the comments, Brie.
Yeah. The choice was in Shinji's hands alone, though. What are we talking about?
Well, no, it wasn't in Shinji's hands. Shinji made the choice
Shinji was
to give
forced.
people. Yeah, he was forced, but he made the choice to give people choice, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would actually lean on the side here that Sephiroth isn't all bad. That's honestly what I would pick. Good, and Seth bad. Go on, guys. Vote.
Let's see.
And once you vote, just give me a little justification for why you pick.
Hi says, but hang on, isn't the... Wait, I'm going to say...
Mortals will all die. We don't have a choice. Yeah, but who decides that mortals all die?
Oops.
That's the thing.
Cancel.
In this scenario of FF7, the planet has chosen that that's how the system works. But who's to say that just because the planet chooses that's how the system works? What we've seen in FF7, what FF7 has demonstrated to us, is that just because it's the planet doesn't mean it's right. Because what you're saying then is, yeah, white materia genocide, mass weapon destruction and murder, infecting little children with geostigma. The planet's right in all of that. Who's to say?
So this comment says, but hang on, isn't the life stream also the will of the planet? So Sephiroth, I think deluging himself in that also makes him an agent of the life stream. Did you mean dissolving? Doesn't it?
I agree that the life stream, there's an idea that is kind of a more distinct ideology, like moral arbiter, aka like Minerva. Like she's an expression, I think, of a more severe version of it. I do think that what we see progress through Advent Children is that Aerith's ideology becomes more of the mainstream planetary adoption. And the reason for that is because we see in the Ultimania chapters that the souls in the life stream that were struggling and suffering, they chose to rally with Aerith. They chose to give their life force to her, basically after she helps them dissolve, which, just put this in your mind for a second, guys. That Aerith is going up to souls in the live stream, yeah? Giving them, because, you know, all these souls, you can't say the live stream, the will of the live stream is the collective unanimous decision, because none of those souls have ever known a third option of retaining individuality.
It's true.
Those in the souls know, I'm either here suffering in purgatory or I dissolve and let myself go. That's all they know. There's never been a choice 3. So when Aerith comes up to them and say, all right, I see you're suffering there, mate. Basically, you can either let go or you can continue suffering. And what we see in the Ultimania is a lot of the souls pick euthanasia, existential annihilation. And not just the annihilation, but they then give their life essence and their soul to Aerith. And that's what the Ultimania describes, is how Aerith was able to cry out when the planet meteor was coming and white materia wasn't strong enough, holy, to rebuff it. Aerith cried out to all the souls and they rallied to her cry and brought the life stream. Now just think of that for a second. Aerith goes up and encourages people to let go of their individuality and to give their life essence to her, thereby making her more powerful. And that is why in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, why do you think people were calling her mother? Why are people calling me mother? Kadaj, mother. Everyone kept calling mother. And Aerith was saying, why is everyone calling me mother? She is essentially transcending to a life stream goddess by absorbing souls. How is Aerith any different to Sephiroth? How? How is she any different? Now, again, you could say it because Sephiroth is taking it by force, and that's different because the souls are willingly giving themselves over to her. But again, you need to pull in the question of, can you freely make a choice if you're extracted from option number 3? You can't.
This is an interesting one. Why should souls have a choice? What gives them that right? Why does Aerith get to have that individuality? Why does she get that choice? Why does the planet pick certain people? And why do the other people get fucked? I would just counter with that. Why don't they get the choice? Why do you think they shouldn't have a choice?
But that's the thing. With that question, that's a really good question. What gives individual souls a right to have a choice? You've been given the gift of life, even if that's fleeting and ephemeral, and it doesn't go on for eternity, and you only get one life to either make the most of it or not, and then you have to give yourself back, okay, to the natural order of things, to the natural flow of things. I agree, that is one way to look at it. But if that's the case, then Emmet-Selk was right. Because Emet-Selk, the world was split by Hydaelyn and the natural order of things violated so that humanity could keep its individuality. So what gave Hydaelyn the right to shatter the world, also that humans could keep their individual expressions of themselves? So in that case, Emet-Selk saying, no, that's not right. You don't have the right to break the natural order of things just so that individuality can be the highest honoured thing. No, no, no. The natural order is the natural order. You are secondary to that. That's the thing. Is your individuality primary or secondary to the natural order of the universe? If you choose primary, that's what Sephiroth is doing. He's making it primary. If you choose it secondary, that's what Emmet-Selk is trying to restore. Huh?
It's also what Clive was doing.
Oh, in what sense?
So if you're talking about individuality and you're talking about free will, anybody who cares mostly about that, could you not compare them to Clive? Because Clive, that was what he has been spouting the entirety of 16, is about his free will, about his, like, that's what he was fighting for.
True that. And what you could say is the natural order in 16
is Ultima.
Was Ultima. He made the world, he made people, he chose what their use case was, what their purpose was, and the purpose was my preservation. Well, the planet has also chosen a system that this is how your life will be, and it will be for my preservation. And if I have a use for you, I'll keep you around. If not, fuck off. So in that sense, the planet is like a god, but it's not a very good one. It's not one. Yeah, so in that sense, why is Ultima? Because he created the natural order of things. Why is Ultima wrong? Oh, because individuality. But again, if that goes against what the purpose was, egotism versus self-awareness, individuality. I think it's the core morality of the story. I really think that this, what's really cool about like framing my mind like this is I suddenly have a much different picture. I always had like a very tenuous grasp on, okay, well, what does Sephiroth really want? What does he deserve as the ending of a villain? Is he just Jenova? Oh, but the planet, it does these kind of, it was always kind of like, I knew there were these aspects.
Yeah. Like something
but
didn't feel right.
They were ambiguous and they were vague. To me now, this is a clear ideological battle, and go from any individual person to individual person, you will give a different answer. But the hilarious thing is, your answer will change
depending on the situation.
Depending on the situation, and also depending on the presentation. Honestly, just because Sephiroth is presented as a villain and the planet the good guy, we all fall into the trap of story presentation. But if you strip that out and you go, what is the more
really look at the planet?
Yeah, what is the core moral situation here? What you see is we're all fucking duped. We've all been duped all along.
Yeah, and looking at the planet and the planet's actions, you can't really deny that the planet isn't all good. It just isn't. There's no way to twist that and make it like this is good, this is bad. There's some good in Sephiroth that's just clear. Obviously bits of that he shirked off, but now that he's completely reformed that, it's not completely out of the question to say that there is some good still left in him. I don't think that that's the overwhelming bit. He's still a villain. He is, but probably not to the same degree. It's like you can't put him on the same level as Jenova. Jenova is just pure bad. Jenova has nothing but bad intentions. But when you look at the planet, it's like, I would argue the planet's probably worse than Sephiroth.
And arguably, I'm talking about dark humanitarianism, aka Sephiroth doing this just so that humanity has the ability to transcend. But we don't even know for a fact that Sephiroth isn't also looking after the planet in here. Because think about it. He wants to absorb the life stream, take it somewhere else, the planet as his vessel, and there create a bright new shining world. Now, what he's saying is he's not going to absorb the life stream and then just crush it, obliterate it. like diminish it into nothing. When the planet, its life is dictated by lifestream, spirit energy, who's to say that taking the planet as a vessel, still with spirit energy intact, isn't also a way to save the planet? We don't know.
But is
we
Genova
don't know
bad? What if that's
we
how
don't
she
know.
can survive in self-preservation? Yes. Because the planet is still bad, even though it's, oh, well, it's self-preservation. No, what they're doing is bad. Genova, acting the way that she does, is also bad in the same way that the planet's bad.
Yeah. The thing with Genova is, yeah, she is going to obliterate everything. But my point quickly there, that Sephiroth could also be looking as a way, not just to save humanity and individuality, but also fundamentally save the planet. Also kind of ties in, is it not, with what opened in the remake, Cloud. Our planet is dying, slowly, painfully. You look at that dialogue and possible that Sephiroth is actually full in the right. But no, going through the poll, Aerith isn't all good, 16%. Sephiroth isn't all bad, 19%. Damn, that's a lot more.
This is different.
It's a lot different.
I knew it would be different.
We've got some of you realising the villainy and the hypocrisy of Aerith Gainsborough.
And the planet.
And the planet. Neither is good or bad, 42%, but now only 24%. Aerith good and Seph bad. That's half of what it was on Twitter.
I told you this would be an interesting outcome.
Victory! Victory!
Woo.
I like this outcome.
Yeah.
And I like it, guys, because it doesn't mean that Aerith has to be bad and Sephiroth good. It's not about redemption arc. It's recognizing that this is like much better storytelling than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Like, it's very nuanced and very, very deep. And like on an ideological level, it is very, very powerful. Pez, Sephiroth absorbed the knowledge of the live stream. What did he see to make him want to end it? Well, that's the thing. Is it to end it or is it to preserve it? Is it to give it a different shot? Is it to extract it from a very bleak cosmological fate? Because yeah, like I said in my last video, the world is eventually going to become a massive amalgamation of black holes. For trillions of years. It would be darkness, the great death.
Oh, God.
Just march towards the abyss, Brie. Is Sephiroth wrong for wanting to stop that? No. There's no good or evil beyond this point.
Mike's right.
We'll cover the ending. So haven't we spoken about Cloud in this scenario? Nah. I always thought Sephiroth planned to become a god to copycat what Minerva did in the past. Someone had to have summoned their first meteor. Interesting.
That is a point.
At the end of the day, if you want to make fundamental change, that's basically the same as becoming God, right?
We mustn't attempt to humanize the thoughts of those not human.
Who said? But that's the thing.
Who said that?
Sephiroth could be. He has. You're making a correct point, and that is why when somebody on Twitter said to me, "Let me read this comment to you guys." Maybe we shouldn't put our faith in the son of the great deceiver because things are going a little differently, is all I'm saying. AKA, we shouldn't think that anything that Sephiroth is doing could actually have some moral virtue to it and it isn't all just entirely selfish God mode. We shouldn't consider that because he's the son of a great deceiver and just because there's a remake, we shouldn't think that we shouldn't fall for the trick. To which I simply said, and maybe we shouldn't just assume that somebody under the influence of a great deceiver isn't going to think differently when they're no longer being deceived.
Exactly.
The point being,
and also,
Sephiroth
whenever he has
never,
his humanity back
he
intact,
has his humanity
it's going to
intact,
be
yeah.
different.
That's the thing. To think that Ori Sephiroth being Ori,
Ore.
the same as he was in Crisis Core, to assume that that Sephiroth, or even just the one that finally breaks away from Genova, which is a battle we've slowly been seeing, him extracting himself from her because he has a different goal. They do not have the same goal as one another. So when people make Genova and Sephiroth the same fucking thing, God that wants to destroy everything, no. Sephiroth has never had his humanity, and when he gets it back and when he's no longer being deceived by the Great Deceiver, he's not going to be the same. He's not going to think the same. That's why Nomura has specifically told us he isn't the same. He's different. We've never seen this Sephiroth.
Yeah. Genovaroth and Sephiroth are not the same being. No, they're not.
Completely
They're
different.
not. And that's why people do tend to fall into this thing where they lump Sephiroth's thoughts in with Genova's when they realize we have not seen Sephiroth up until this, where this edge of creation, where it's this new Sephiroth that could potentially be either on the cusp of being without Genova's influence or completely without it. Everything we've seen of Sephiroth, from the point of OG, whenever he gets taken over, it has not been something that is completely him. It's got Genova's influence in it.
Yeah.
They're different. It's very different.
And quickly on the point of FF, you saying Sephiroth was controlling Genova, even if that's true, which you could make a case that by Advent Children he'd massively gone over her willpower. But what you still have to factor in is that's not fully Sephiroth. That's still, like, if in the live stream he lost 2/3 of his emotional aspects, even the 1/3, which the 1/3 is extreme will. That's the part that endured. His will was so strong. That's the part that has overpowered Genova. So it's only, even in that scenario, 1/3 of Sephiroth that controls Genova. We don't know about the other 2/3. We don't know what that looks like.
So I've also seen people say that when we're speaking about Advent Children, that I've seen people say that Sephiroth did not show up in Advent Children. That it was
That's
just
still
Genova.
Genova.
Yeah, because if you have to think about it, what did Kadaj do? He took Genova's cells and pushed it into himself. So I've seen that also.
But
That's a possibility.
Kadaj is an emotional trait, though, of Sephiroth. Though.
It's true, but you also have to. It could go either way. Is my point.
Yeah.
Is that it could just be another.
And this is where I
Genova
think it's good to round this part, this Pez cast out with
Yeah.
what we think will happen. So based on all of that, I want to know what your thoughts are, guys, where this is all leading, what the difference will be. Because, yeah, Genova Wrath, I think, is coming to an end. And I do think that what the remake is going to do is totally destroy Genova and Sephiroth. I will be disappointed if that's not the outcome.
Yeah.
This whole "I'll never be a memory" lingering in the live stream
Let's
somewhere.
kill them for good.
Kill them for good.
Yeah.
Now, what does that look like? I do think that what would be really cool is that Genova has been playing Sephiroth. This is a god level mind fucking soul reading. That's the thing. Soul reading. He even says it in the Rebirth trailer. It reads your soul. There's nothing to say that with Sephiroth thinking that he's broken away, thinking that he's acting autonomous, that Genova isn't just leading him up to the umpteenth hour to then execute whatever the fuck it wants, which we know kind of what it wants. So I think seeing that battle come to a climax and seeing Square Enix distinguish clearly to us what has baffled every FF7 fan, there is not virtually a single person who doesn't get quagmired into some, well, it could be this, well, it could be that, even the best of thinking, or just the vast majority of them who don't really understand the story. They're like, no, this is this. It's like, well, no, here's evidence that that's not. Well, you've missed that part of the story. Well, no, that was laid out to us. That's not what it said in that part of the story or that War Mania. A lot of people don't know Final Fantasy VII. They just don't.
Yeah, it's true.
And I've seen it systemically on Twitter. People don't know this story.
No.
And I think because it was always such an ambiguous thing, well, was it Genova in OG? Or was it Sephiroth? At what point was it? Well, what do they want?
That's why a lot of people would get confused about why Sephiroth was in a crystal in the North Crater. Like, they couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that Genova can shapeshift. And that is what we were seeing, was shapeshifting.
Yeah,
So,
mimic.
Like, that's something that people still, I've seen to this day, not understand.
Yeah.
So going even further beyond that, the complexities, I can imagine, is pretty hard for some people to get.
And I think the best thing and what I actually think will happen in Remake Part 3 is that we finally see the distinct differences. Jenova just wants to eradicate all life on the planet and all souls, doesn't give a damn.
Sephiroth's
Just as
like,
cold as that. Sephiroth wants to become an authoritarian god, if you will, and create a new world, but still one that has souls, that maintains souls, and actually gives them the path of individual freedom. And I think, because we have the fight and we went back and forth, you thought it'd be better the other way round. I think what would be so fitting for Sephiroth as an ending is we see him extract himself from Jenova. We see him once again propose to Cloud. Lend me your strength. All those people that you have lost, that you will never see again. Your mother, Barrett, Tifa, I mean, if that stabbing is like real. At the end of days, even the meteors hit, I don't know, they could get crazy with it. I still think God Mode Cloud could be a thing.
Yeah.
But he basically says, yo, Cloud, all the people you love, you can keep them in your life. And you said about a Sephiroth versus Jenova fight.
Yeah, you got very excited when I brought that up. You're like,
When she said that, I was like, shit, could they do it? Could they play Sephiroth going toe-to-toe against Jenova?
I think it would be sick.
And Sephiroth at least fighting for the world not to have existential annihilation. And if we see the final moment of Sephiroth, he's gridlocked into Jenova and he tries to fight against Jenova because Jenova is just going to condemn the world to utter oblivion. And we see Sephiroth step up on the side of humanity. Again, this isn't about redemption, but I think seeing Sephiroth die for that outcome would be such a poignant way to see him off. Because if to me it would honour, yes, you'd still have the Sephiroth who wants to create a world of his own, but it would do honour to the Crisis Core Sephiroth, the Sephiroth who was a good friend, the Sephiroth who had some level of care for the world. I don't want to see Sephiroth go out, canonically, after all of this, just as this bugged up, God complex, Jenova infected, can't really distinguish the two of them, maniac. That's not my Sephiroth. That's not how I see him.
That's not my Sephiroth.
Hashtag not my Sephiroth. And it would have that bitterness, that bittersweetness that Arden had. Again, we didn't really see it. I mean, we kind of saw it at the end. Arden laying there and Noctis comes up to him and he said, rest now. It didn't change that Arden was still the villain and what he was doing was fucked up. But I think for Cloud and Sephiroth's relationship, that would give me shivers. If Cloud, at least, not agreeing with him, but at least saw what Sephiroth was doing this all for.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't, I want to travel the world as a god, just me. Because that's not him, that's Jenova. And if we saw that humanity, again, Arden, they was going to take even further. They were going to have Arden literally given a choice between letting the world get completely destroyed by Bahamut or squashing his beef with the Somnus Kings that betrayed him. And bearing in mind that Arden was doing all of this for revenge against the Somnus Kings, but when presented with utter obliteration or that, Arden chose to squash his beef with the Kings, he put the ring on, he reconciled with Somnus and his revenge to save the world. And as a result, Noctis held a festival every year in Arden's honour. That's what the artwork was of honouring what and rectifying the narrative against Arden, that he was just a big bad baddie and all evil. That's what they did with Arden, and that shit gave me chills. You don't need to do that with Sephiroth. I don't want like a Sephiroth bloody memorial every year and shit. You don't need to hold him as a hero. Yeah. But recognise that aspect. Yeah. I think that would be really dope.
And see, I was kind of on a different end of the spectrum because I do think that Sephiroth has been so still impacted by all of these events that he still does have a lot of villainous traits.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that Sephiroth is at a point where he will overpower Jenova. I feel like he will either completely annihilate the bitch, or he will overpower her and take her strength completely as his own, where he no longer is influenced by her, but he can utilize her power. And
yes, that would be cool.
obviously his end goal is not something that is going to align with Cloud and the gang. And then they will, I think, fight, I think on
Safe for Sephiroth? Still?
Yeah, on the life stream level, I feel like Aerith and Zach and whoever.
Maybe Biggs.
And Biggs.
Lucretia could show up on that level.
Yeah,
well.
maybe. I don't think she'll be playable, but I think maybe like Biggs or somebody will fight on one level, and also the, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett on a different level, and just kill Sephiroth for good.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think having the separation between Jenova and Sephiroth and what their goals are, I think is an important thing to do. I think that they've teased it a lot, and I think it would make it really powerful, and it would obviously still have Sephiroth be the final big bad baddie, but I don't want him to go out like fighting for humanity fully. I still want him to be the big bad baddie.
Yeah. It depends what you guys...
Because that's the thing, like, I don't want them to do pretty much exactly the same thing they did with Arden, but they can do it in a way where we do see that, like, Sephiroth isn't
some kind
as
of understanding.
bad, and that, and really, like, fully showing what does he truly want, and really giving us that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, people saying about Darth Vader, I don't want some, like, cliche kind of ending. That's why I say I don't want it, just like Arden, I don't want Cloud to be like, oh, Sephiroth, like, rest now. You were a prick, but I see what you was doing at least. I don't want it to play like that. I want it to be more mature than that, and I want it to be more nuanced than that. But yeah, at the end of the day, even with Darth Vader, seeing that other aspect to him, it gave context. But yeah, it didn't justify that he wiped out planets. Exactly.
True.
But
True.
the main part here, guys, of what I thought, and I like Bree's idea, is I thought, okay, well, if you've got Jenova and Sephiroth both being deleted from this game,
And yeeted.
that I said in my mind, I thought Sephiroth would go first, trying to fight Jenova, and basically Jenova playing like the trump card.
Yeah.
You were walking into it the whole time, and like, say if he actively doesn't want to destroy all of life, how tragic it would be that if we saw Ori Sephiroth not wanting complete annihilation for everything, but Jenova overpowers him.
Yeah.
And it would be so tragic to be
Which would
like,
be cool.
you'd fully see in that moment the tragic aspect of Sephiroth is that even if he wanted to be better, even if he did have humanity, even if he could have found who his real mother was or saved his friends or not being betrayed, if there could have been a difference, that Jenova this whole time would never allow it.
Yeah.
And it would at least show that Sephiroth in some capacity was himself a victim.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really bittersweet, that then the safer Sephiroth is basically Jenova Roth. Jenova prominent, Sephiroth
Which we could fight that first.
secondary.
As a possibility.
Well, the reason why I thought that is because I thought if you eliminate Jenova first, do S cells carry on working? The moment Jenova is deleted, will all S cells delete? Cloud will go back to being a regular weak-ass bitch who can't even do a one-arm pull-up.
Yeah. Which is why I'm thinking more along the lines of Sephiroth, like, overpowering Jenova.
Becoming,
and, like, yeah. And I also...
Quick on that point,
sorry.
because that's what I really liked with what Bree said, and it overcame my narrative of, well, if you delete Jenova, there's no more cells. If Sephiroth assimilates Jenova, becomes Sephinova, and what would be really cool in that final moment, with him having this galactic squid that can read souls and can create worlds of illusion, what would be an amazing ending is that he presents to Cloud clearly his ideology. What is, because it's all ambiguous, isn't it? What is this shining new world? What is this thing that Sephiroth wants? Does he want to be bound? We don't know. It's so ambiguous. Now imagine with the power of Jenova, he could show, just like when we go into Worlds of Illusion, he could show Cloud what it looks like. and in a way kind of tempt Cloud with it. This is a world where you can still have your mother. This is a world where you can have Zack back. You can have Aerith back. You can have all of these people back. And he shows that to Cloud, and then Cloud has to make a choice. And he makes the choice of like, nah, man. And then we go and fight Sephiroth. Safe and over.
Yeah, and I think that
would be dope.
What was I going to say?
I cut you off.
No, it's okay. It's totally okay because you still have more points to make. But I think
the Mako infused people will still be Mako infused. Who's to say that, dude? Because Mako is based on Genova cells, and if Genova's
Mako is based off of the live stream, is it not?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, because it is live stream suffused.
So people will still be strong in that sense, but I feel like the Genova cells, I wonder how it works. But regardless, that's why I do think it is important
it's true.
for Sephiroth to what I think would be cool personally, because I do think it's important that Sephiroth is our final boss, because having Genova be the final boss just feels a little bit less like, or like Sephiroth with Genova's powers, that sort of thing. But I think getting to maybe see some sort of like struggle between them in the sense of like maybe Genova decides, okay, well, I let you think that you were completely running the ship, and then she tries to start what she wants, and she tries to overtake him, and then Sephiroth's just essentially like no, and kind of like, you know, whenever I almost said Noctis. Clive fights his shadow self in 16. That sort of like different realm sort of fight between Genova and Sephiroth. I think that would be really sick to see. And then maybe having him overtake her, and then because then we do still get that aspect of him, right? Of like, no, what you're wanting is too extreme. This is not what I want. This is what I want.
And that's where you would see the Nazi Sephiroth.
Yes.
Right? Where Sephiroth is still trying to create a perfect, better society, one that will live for 1,000 years, and there won't be strife, and there won't be X, Y, and Z. It would still be like Nazi level of dark, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't be, you know, complete extermination of all life.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean, on that point with Mako, like life energy. That's the thing. Cloud doesn't have to go back to being a weak ass bitch.
No, he
because obviously what we've seen is like Tifa and Sid and the gang.
Tifa, strong as shit.
They get to insane levels of strength even in Advent Children, because they run on chi energy, life energy, when your memories and your basically you can still be really powerful in 7.
Yeah.
Crazy levels of powerful just on life force alone.
Yeah, you don't have to be some like Genova cell infused fucker to be that strong.
Cloud is the final boss. There, called it. I do think
I don't think that's gonna happen.
I just think it would be cool if Cloud has to make a choice.
Yeah.
That's what I say with the God level Cloud is rounding this out. Thank you guys for accompanying us on this big moral quandary.
The first podcast episode.
Yeah. I think that Cloud, the best way to end this is that Cloud becomes cognizant of both sides.
Yeah.
The planet's violation and its evil and its extermination of individuality and no choice.
And Aerith becoming aware of it as well.
I think
Aerith changing the way that the live stream works.
I think she already is becoming slightly aware.
Yeah.
Because she chose to destroy destiny. A weapon of the planet, because she realized, even just in her intuitive way, that the planet, you can't do this. You can't like limit the rails of free will and torture people for preservation.
And Aerith becoming fully aware of that though by the end, and then maybe having something to where it's like both of the bad sides get rectified, like the planet, Minerva or whatever, is no longer in control of the live stream. Put Aerith in charge, and all is well. Everything's good.
Yeah. Well, I personally think that the best resolution, if you see my God Cloud theory, is that I do kind of love the idea of that meteor hitting, Cloud absorbing the souls, him becoming the vessel, and being given a choice between preservation and their natural order, humanity and their individuality. And that is a decision that neither Aerith, the planet, Sephiroth, Genova have been able to make. It's something that even us in the comment section can't agree on. And Cloud, I just think that the perfect choice between those things is you need to give humanity another shot, but you have to make sure that they have undergone fundamental realization and ideology change. And what better way to do that than absorb all the souls, keep them in the life stream for 500 years, feeling the wounds of the planet on a personal soul level. The souls have to feel the wounds of the planet and then release them back on 500 years later with Nanaki on top of Midgar. He sees them come back. Yes, I know this would be a little bit Lightning Returns, shepherding the souls to a new world kind of shit. But I think it would be poignant is that we have the meteor hit, we have the final fight, we see Nanaki running, and then we see humans come back to a world that has given itself back to nature, and they've personally felt what they've done. That's the only way I could see it being reconciled. I don't know. What do you guys think?
There's different ways to do it, like 500 years or whatever. I think that there's a way during this kind of event of like the ending of having, you know, the planet or Minerva kind of yeeted off of the throne of power and having Sephiroth and Genova actually killed. I feel like there is a way for, I feel like Aerith would probably be in charge of making this happen, of showing people, because, you know, Aerith can connect with other like humans.
She's the last Cetra, isn't she?
Right? So like showing them like an image of like, if we don't change, this is what could happen. Something like that. Something that sets people up to be better in the future.
And that's why
like
that's my second option, is if you don't go for the hardcore, ridiculous, over the top, high fantasy, basically Lightning Returns God Cloud scenario, is that, you show Neo Midgar, an actual eco-city, an eco-friendly version of it, that is not a net parasite on the planet. You see young adult Marlene, she's walking through, she's become a biologist, she's walking through Midgar, she's become like an eco-engineer there, she's doing a piece of vital work on the city, and then she hears the whisper of the planet in her ear. And it shows to us, because obviously Cetra are humans, they're just humans that settle down. They found a love for home, and because they found a love for home, you need to create barriers and walls, and suddenly somebody can come and steal your shit, and this is the premise of all war, and this is, the settling down thing is the crux of why humans, Cetra became humans. And that's what Sephiroth hated, right? They're the ones who abandoned their planetary duty to instead choose the luxury of home, settle down, enjoy their pleasures, and basically live, you know, very humanized lives at the expense of the planet. That's why Cetra became humans. They stopped hearing the voice of the planet because they no longer connected with it. To show Marlene in the future and hear a human for the first time, hear the voice of the planet, boom, credits. Yay! Yay! Humans have finally learnt their fucking lesson. I love this ending. This is so good. This is epic. Actual resolution to one of the most ambiguous bullshit endings of all time. Like, and have a vision for the future. One that is actually kind of like inspiring.
This person said those people won't be alive forever. The planet thinks for the long term versus Cloud and Friends thinks on the short term. The planet isn't limited by human life expectancy. I disagree, because I do think that there's a degree of that where it could be true. There's obviously always that possibility, but I do think that if they create a society like what he's explaining, and there's a big enough effect, like yes, those people won't be alive forever, but how do people who are connected to the planet, who care about the future, how are they going to raise their kids?
Yeah.
In that manner, because they realize the importance of it. So it's like, sure, some bad people might come along eventually, but it's like, yeah, like what you're saying, humans aren't going to be around forever. They're going to evolve. These sorts of things are going to happen. They're not going to be the same.
Yeah.
So it's like, you could be right there, but also at the same time, you know.
Well, you could be right, and that's the thing, Sebastian. I think this is where I side on the side that gets me called a psychopath. Is that to me, I'm just like, especially if they're souls, your individual life don't mean that much. Not a huge amount, not in the grand scope of things. And even if there is a soul, a human soul, that also doesn't transcend the life force of the planet and evolution and the planet continuing on. I feel like humans are intrinsically biased towards their own existence for obvious reasons. I think we're also intrinsically narcissistic about it. Why do you think at one point in human history we believed that we were the center of the universe? We literally believed we were the center of the universe. We also believe that heaven and hell, these realms exist purely for us to go into or not. We've created religions and philosophies. We have dominated the natural world, all because we are the priority. We're it. And that's what Sephiroth thinks as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, it depends where you fall on this spectrum. For Aerith, humans aren't the priority. They can be if they allow themselves to be. But yeah, humans are just a small blip on this planet. And that, but the funny thing is, like, that ideology can go one of two ways. I've seen people justify polluting the planet, the fact that the natural world has been eradicated in like a few decades, something from like 30% down to like 12%. David Attenborough come out with his documentary, Tears in His Eyes, saying that I thought I was going out filming these documentaries to help nature. What I realized looking back over my life as an old man now, I was just there witnessing its destruction. I was just witnessing it die.
That's sad.
That's what all of my work has been. I thought it was more than that. That's all it was. I was just seeing it just in its last
That's
fucking
really fucking sad
beats.
to hear.
And I saw people come against David Attenborough, a national treasure, and say, he's a fucking liberal, global elitist who's encouraging political
Come on.
policies to basically, under the guise of eco-friendly, to basically create global tyranny. He's encouraging global tyranny.
Bro.
And regardless, it doesn't matter if we pollute the planet or destroy nature, because humans will just kill themselves off and the planet will continue on. So I don't think we need to make change. I don't think we need to try to look at what we're doing to the planet, to not be squanderous, to not be wasteful, to not eradicate species. It doesn't matter, because after we're gone, life will carry on. And you actually use it as a justification for humanity's worst behaviour. So, do you mean there is a massively nihilistic way?
People say a lot of things similar to that as well. It's not just that. People will also say, well, people are never going to stop doing it, so why do I have to?
Precisely.
It's not going to make a difference if I make any
I
kind of
had one mate say, well, what's the point? I'm going to be dead by then. I said, okay, well, what about future generations? I don't care. I don't plan to have kids.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me. Eek. That's a bit selfish, my guy.
Right. And it's like, when you have that kind of ideology, as well as systematic corruption, government indoctrination, information of scientists being coerced and manufactured and hidden and lied about. Oh, but Sephiroth's the big bad baddie because he's here violating free will. Come on. Come on. You can't give me that shit. You can't sit there and play Sephiroth as like the big bad baddie in all of this, when at the end of the day, that kind of systematic corruption, that kind of loose, fucking pathetic mindset exists among the population.
The biggest bad baddie in Final Fantasy, other than probably, you could say Jenova, but Shinra. Shinra. Really, even more so than Jenova, because what gave Jenova all of this opportunity to wreak all this havoc? It was Shinra. It was Hojo. Those are the big bad baddies.
But
And I think that's what the game tried to get you to take out of it.
Gave Shinra power? Us who like to have hot water, we like to have electricity, we like to have X, Y, and Z. We are the ones who open the doors to these corrupt regimes to take advantage of, because we, on an individual level, are also selfish. We don't care. We don't care about the facts. We don't care to educate ourselves. And when we vote for people in power, we vote based on individual wants and needs, and we open the doorway.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about 7 still, and like the people in 7 putting Shinra up, I do feel like Shinra was a bit more manipulative.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the thing, is like, there is a reason, obviously, why Barrett feels bad
Not all
about...
the world. Wu-Tai didn't want it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a reason why
True that,
Barrett
bro.
feels bad.
True that.
But I don't think that, like, if we're talking about, like, okay, who's more, obviously Shinra is the bigger bad, and they were manipulating people and going after their wants and needs and, like, not being truthful and stuff. But there is still a reason why Barrett feels responsible, because he should have known better.
That's what's freaky about Barrett, isn't it? Is that he's the one who hates Shinra the most, but he's the one who opened the door to them. Dean was the one who said, no, we should stick to...
And we kind of view Dean as a baddie sometimes.
Yeah, we see Dean... Good, I mean, his mind broke.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He went
Barrett was the one who opened it, because it's like, they can make our lives better. They can provide for us. So you can say, okay, Barrett made a free will choice. Did he? Because he didn't know all the facts.
He didn't know all the facts.
And that's why, when you don't know all the facts, your choice isn't a free one. People on the planet, as we know it, don't know that they have a choice between existential annihilation, torture, and pain, or a third one. And if Sephiroth is coming and placing that third option at humanity's doorstep, at Cloud's doorstep, you have to really question, is that an evil thing to do?
Because that's the thing, like, yes, Sephiroth has not the purest intentions, but we also look at everything. Like, obviously, we're not talking about the planet in real life, because the planet in real life is obviously just pure victim. Planet in 7 has some bad qualities with the way that it runs things, the way that it manipulates and kind of uses Aerith and kind of almost lies to her, doesn't give her all of the information by omission. And having all of these tortured souls using the whispers, and yeah, Aerith kind of is starting to realize that. But yeah, if you look at 7, really, nobody's purely innocent. Nobody, nothing.
Nobody. And that's it. And Mister, you make a good point. But yeah, individuality needs some check in order to not see itself above the system it is a part of, which is consciousness. And that's the thing. Those checks, what do you mean? Are those hard imposed? Who imposes them? Who imposes those checks so that you don't become, and humanity doesn't become, inherently narcissistic to the point it breaks the very system of which it is a part? Well, you would look at any system creating that check as repressive. And that's the thing, if Sephiroth creates a new world and a new society, but it has certain checks, you'd see him as a dictator. See, the problem we have as a species is we want free will. We want the ability to do anything the fuck we want.
Yeah.
And prioritize anything we want. And that any system that keeps that in place is repressive. Because again, we have to go back to Amarot. They put checks in place. And they were not necessarily that repressive. In fact, you can look at them. Okay, so we don't dress differently so that we don't create all of this suffering and all of this turmoil, and we don't set ourselves at odds with each other. They even vetted each other's ideas. So if you had an idea for what to create, because they could create things, they could essentially create life and create concepts, but it would first have to go through a council. And they would democratically look at this person's ideas and concepts, and they would decide on whether or not it was good for the whole. And if it was, they would give all the person the power, the encouragement to see their concept through. But some people called that out and be like, you shouldn't have to have your ideas vetted. You should have the freedom to just act on your own ideas. And Amarot is a dictatorship because it didn't allow people just act on whatever whim they wanted. But it wasn't. And Emmet-Selk and the Mauritines genuinely had a paradise, but to bring that paradise into existence, certain checks had to be in place. They weren't overly oppressive, but they seemed it to us. And the reason why it seemed oppressive to us is because when you walk through a world and people can't dress and they can't just express on their own wants and needs without having it first vetted, you go, oh, that doesn't feel right. That feels a bit inhuman. That feels unnatural. Surely anything that would get us as a species to paradise, a utopia, is going to require something that we don't feel right now. It's going to require change. It's going to require something different. And anyone who believes that that change or difference doesn't mean eliminating some of the things that we've come to value, that we've seen to come, that's a virtue, I think that's a bit ridiculous. We can have everything. We can have it all. We can create a paradise, but we don't have to change any of our core behaviors.
Well, no, we do have to change our core behaviors.
Right, but some of those core behaviors require some people who like to be able to do whatever the fuck they want to feel like they're oppressed and repressed and they're not able to do what they want.
Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people don't realize that we are already in a society where you cannot do whatever the fuck you want. You can't. You can't.
Yeah, but what we're seeing is more and more things. Like, I remember when they started saying in Britain that you had to pay 5p for a carrier bag. You had to start paying for it. Or you had to separate your waste between your recycling. No, I remember people kicking off.
Really?
Why should I? Why should I?
People were upset over that.
Why should I fucking have to?
Why is that big of a deal? Oh, geez. People complain about everything.
I mean, you see what they're doing. People having to get the COVID vaccines. People having to,
Yeah, people just like to complain because that's the thing, is they are so, they don't realize that there are reasons why we do these things. They need to happen for things to run smoothly. And I do think, particularly in America, people are very overwhelmed by this idea of freedom. And it's like, okay, well, actually, having some things put in place can make you live better and make everybody live better. Some rules are important. Keeps people safe. Like what a lot of people are talking about. Well, I don't want to get into the gun thing, but, you know, I think it's important to keep our children safe. So maybe we should have some more rules around stuff like that, you know?
Damn, Mr. We're going to round the stream out now, guys. We're almost at the 3-hour mark. We'll close out exactly on the 3-hour mark. That's what's juicy to me. But I like it, mister. But is egoism and selfishness any more true a form of individuality, or just merely the illusion of individuality? It's a good question. It's like, what really is our nature? I even saw people talking about back in the day when we were hunter-gatherers and presenting the idea that we weren't actually violent. And we weren't actually like, we didn't war and we didn't fuck each other over. And some historians were arguing against that. Like, no, we do have this like violent tribalistic trait within us. Some saying not. It's like, yeah, what really is us? What really is our nature? And what is it that's just been put and built up because of nefarious systems, compounded
society
over long periods of time? Is it because we settled down? That's the thing. Is it because we wear different clothes? Is it because we, I
are greedy and
we
selfish.
we don't democratically vet our ideas. Is it because we
We
settled?
don't trade and we just steal instead.
Yeah, we stopped becoming hunter-gatherers, we stopped becoming nomadic, and we settled down.
And we said, oh, instead of giving you this so you can give me that, I'm just going to take that from you and kill all your people.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It was some of those evil doings out of necessity. And you could say throughout human history, sometimes it has felt like that. If we don't kill that
It hasn't
tribe,
been like that for a really long time.
we're not going to survive.
It hasn't been like that for a really long time.
No, it truly hasn't.
What's
there we
our
go.
excuse now?
Anything before we sign out, guys?
Brits enjoy complaining. It's a pastime. That's fair.
We do. We truly, truly do. And Brie finally understands why. We live on a soggy island with crammed in over.
Yeah, I thought that a lot. I was just like, man, y'all are so cranky out here. But then seeing your housing situation and seeing like a lot of different things, I'm like, oh, I understand why you guys are walking down the street like, you fucking what, mate? I'm just like, Jesus. Everybody's screaming in their phones.
Yeah.
So angry.
That's Brits.
Yeah.
Pez Cast, is this going to be a regular thing? If you guys like the format, if you think it should be shorter, longer, different topics, if you enjoy, let me know.
Yes.
If you specifically know what we would want to cover on another Pez Cast, I'm up for it if you guys enjoyed it. Rebirth tomorrow at State of Play.
Potentially.
Tomorrow.
Potentially.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Could be.
I mean, they have
We'll
done
see.
it before, where they've dropped things that we thought was going to be at TGS. Did that not happen with one of the remake trailers? Was expecting to be a TGS, and then it just got
It was
surprise
just
Pepe'd in
State
a
of Play.
State of Play.
We're gonna hear something about it soon.
Will I stream it? What time is it tomorrow? Didn't even know it was happening.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the Pez
I don't
Cast
think it
thing,
will,
guys, I think personally, I think that the Pez Cast should be anything. It doesn't have to be Final Fantasy related. It doesn't have to even be video game related.
Blasphemy, Brie.
Just saying.
Bloody.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Anime?
I'm on the cusp of going into the deep end, guys, and just throwing off all notions of what I should cover, or staying hardcore Final Fantasy.
As long as it's interesting, I think that it should be fair game.
Well, I'm fucked then. I'm never interesting.
That's why I'm here.
State of Play is like 10 p.m. UK time. Ooh, so like 2 p.m. here.
Which is a pretty reasonable time for us, isn't it?
Nice. I'll jump on Tales of Rise tomorrow. And then I'll stick on some State of Play
State of Peep.
before we juice into it. Well,
Sounds good.
there it is, guys. The full scope of Aerith and Minerva versus Sephiroth and Emmet-Selk. I think Sephiroth did nothing wrong.
Oh.
He hasn't done anything wrong yet. Sephiroth to this day has not committed a single crime.
I disagree.
What? Okay, tell me what crime. What crime?
So what I think that he's done is he is starting to gain control back.
You don't know
To
that?
a degree.
When?
To a degree.
What, you mean overcoming Genova's will? Overcoming Genova's will, you mean? Yeah, but that's still only 1/3 of Sephiroth. We've been through this. He lost the rest of him in himself in the life stim.
Yes, but that's something that he still, it's like
What? He has what?
doing
Control
something
over?
bad.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down. Don't go shaking your face at me. The hell was that?
I'm passionate. Sephiroth has not committed a single crime, and I will have no one tell me otherwise.
So you think that he's not a villain whatsoever?
Unless you can point to me what he has done that Cloud wouldn't have done. Like you said, under the influence of Genova, he would have decapitated Aerith.
Yes.
The Cetra turned into murderous killing machines. And so any moment that Sephiroth is under Genova's control isn't him. And then even the one that does supersede Genova's will, that was still not fully him, because Gaia has created a system where you're not allowed to be individually you. And Sephiroth was forced to, for the purpose of holding onto himself, had to do away with all of the traits that had any humanity.
So because he did that,
that's why he's a villain.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He did that to survive, which if you do something to survive, but then you become somebody fucking terrible and you do terrible things, do your terrible things suddenly not count? I don't think it makes him as bad as he could be.
No,
if he
but
did those things with
no,
his
because
humanity,
again, going to the
but
point.
it's still bad.
Yeah, but is it bad? Because again, he wasn't him when he made those choices.
Not fully himself.
When he was in the live stream, again in the anime version, Genova jumped him in. So his head was in a pickle from a galactic squid, and
Yes.
that would have influenced him to go, oh, only enduring and becoming a god and serving me, your mother, is all you need. Get rid of everything else. So he didn't make the choice.
No, he didn't make the choice. However,
I'm curious what your however is.
what he does at that point, if he's not being any longer like manipulated by Genova, those will still be his choices.
But that's the thing. That has never existed up until this date. That's why Ori Sephiroth, Edge of Creation, reconstituted Sephiroth, now he has moral agency. This one. But there has never been another Sephiroth, I am claiming, who has ever had moral agency. And the story of FF7 clearly shows to us, in my opinion, he hasn't had moral agency.
I don't know if I can even have a conversation with you anymore because you just shook your face at me. I'm still not over that. Did you guys see what he did? He went right at my face. It was
Sephiroth
crazy.
did nothing wrong.
What are you saying?
I'm bloody never.
What are you saying? Jeez. Remember, we love each other.
I don't know. Not if you're going to come against my Sephiroth.
We mostly agree with each other, you know. I'm not one of those people that's telling you that you're... What did you get called again? I keep forgetting. Horrific?
Horrific?
Not horrific. Concerning? What's the word? What did you get called again?
Oh, disturbing.
Disturbing. I'm not the one calling you disturbing.
Feels like it.
Funny.
All right. Well, thank you for signing in, guys. I agree, Pez. If he can overcome his failure, he can be good. I mean, he could be something. He could be a moral, philosophical quandary that puts all of these FF7 noobs, law and junkie noobs, FF7 illiterates in their place.
Ooh.
I don't know, guys. I've just been exposed, Mako exposed to too many just terrible takes.
It's true.
Like the worst takes.
I think also coming back off the back of like really intense takes from FF16 and now seeing a lot of people talking about like Rebirth and stuff again, it's a bit much on the internet right now.
Yeah.
So it's fair.
I've been indoctrinated.
Oh no.
See, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. I'm actually going back through my Twitter.
Stop it. Just stop it. Let's end the stream. Let's end the stream.
We'll end the stream.
Let's end the stream. Stop the...
Who thinks they know F7 law when they're using headcanons? That's the thing. Headcanons have their place. You know, it's fine. I do, and I'm being a bit facetious and over the top. I still do headcanon villain as our antagonist. Am I fully anti-villain with Sephiroth? I suppose that sounds like what I'm advocating for.
It sounds like you're very much on that end of the spectrum.
I've got to say, okay, I think I'm there. I think I'm there. I think I'm anti-villain.
You know?
I think I'm from villain to anti-villain. That's my position. And on the flip side, Aerith, for the first time in this wee peasant's life, she has gone from heroine to anti-heroine.
Bazinga.
That's where I'm at.
Honestly, but yeah, that's a good point though. I do think that a lot of these things people don't recognize, that there's a lot of these things that people are like speculating and theorizing, like we don't fully know a lot of things. Fully. It's not been like completely spelled out and thrown in our face. So there's a lot of talking about things like they're facts.
Yeah.
That a lot of people can fall into that trap. As long as you're aware that what you're talking about is just an opinion and that is based off of things that we don't know for sure, for a fact, that it's just maybe how you take it because it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
These are important things.
And you know, a big part of that also works on my end, that Sephiroth has dark humanity. That is fundamentally still an assumption. 'Cause that's what's really wild, right? Is that this game has been out for 2 decades and a half.
And off.
And we actually don't know what our main villain wants, what he's about. We don't really know when his breaking point is, what his level of influence was.
Yeah. Because there is that full possibility that Sephiroth reached a point where he was just kind of like doing his own thing, acting on his own.
Anti-hero is, doing the wrong thing for the right reason.
Or what you believe to be the right reason.
And I would say, anti-hero is doing the right thing for the wrong reason. Yeah. And in this particular case, the wrong thing for the right reason is, destroying everyone's thing. He's not even destroying the individual lives. That's what gives extra weight for Sephiroth. Like, he's doing it, I guess, he's committing mass murder. Murder. But I don't really see it as mass murder when the people still get to be themselves. I actually see that kind of as salvation. If the other option is that the planet eats you.
That's your opinion.
But the wrong thing, hitting the meteor torturing souls.
That was kind of stinky.
Breaking the 5 concentric spiritual circles of the Kabbalah, violating the natural order. That's the wrong thing, but for the right reason of, breaking a pretty unfair, unjust, biased system that violates free will, all in the name of self-preservation.
Hashtag fuck the planet.
Hashtag fuck the planet.
Hashtag Aerith is a murderer.
I'm going to go throw some plastic in the ocean.
Oh, jeez. Not that.
I think it's the other way around. Who knows? I mean, you guys get what I'm saying. And there's equally Aerith's wrong thing for the right reason is she's only been dissolving humans and their souls and their individual lives, encourage them to dissolve themselves into existential annihilation, and in doing so, giving herself the power of all souls, and in that way, ascending herself to essentially goddess level, which is exactly what Sephiroth was going to do.
Oh.
He was going to punch the planet, absorb souls, and become a god. Aerith is doing that, but she's only doing it through naive, two-route fucking options that violates free will, because there is a third. Just because she doesn't know about it doesn't make it okay. It just means that she's a puppet. And actually, she's been a puppet that has not only got her cake of being with her old dead boyfriend, but she also gets to become a goddess in the process. All through encouraging people to throw away everything that they hold dear. That's one, Aerith. Last one. That's Miguel.
Such a privilege.
I always said that Aerith was best waifu because she's the kind of girl, unlike Tifa, that you could introduce to your nan.
How come you couldn't? Okay, how come you couldn't introduce Tifa to your nan? Who's to say that she wouldn't dress appropriately when visiting
She wouldn't. Tifa doesn't know how to.
She could.
She doesn't know.
If she was going to go visit a grandma, I'm sure that Tifa would put a sweater on.
No.
Brian, I think so.
She wouldn't.
Tifa's a good girl.
But now I would introduce my nan to a mass murdering psychopath.
Fuck. Is that what we're labeling her as now?
A little bit.
Damn.
Smidge.
Ahoo.
Just a smidge. Well, she's a mass murderer. She's not a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just a mass murderer. But an unintentional one, so. All right, guys. Thank you for signing in.
Yeah.
Peace out. Leave a comment. Ding the like button if you liked a bit of Pez Cast. And
if you have a recommendation for a different episode of what topic you'd like us to cover,
let us know.
Yeah.
And I'll be back on tomorrow for Tales of Arise.
And State of Play.
Oh yeah, no, I'll do that. Yeah, both of those at the same time. Ciao, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.
See ya.
Toodaloo.
See ya.